If a month ago, after Zhu Jing had said those words, Li Nanqing might still have worried about Xiang Beifei's state of mind collapsing and comforted him. But once Xiang Beifei's results came out, he understood that he had underestimated the resilience of this young man. If Xiang Beifei had been so easily defeated by Zhu Jing's words, how could he possibly have improved so much in just 2 months? Xiang Beifei replied, "Yes, it's still Liangzhou University. That's good. There's no need to let some people's words disrupt your own pace. It's right to boldly forge ahead. Your father was also sent to Liangzhou University on a scholarship," said Li Nanqing with a smile. He looked at his system interface. N-level awakener Xiang Beifei, initially ranked first in the Western District, your prestige plus 5,000. Ranked first in Liangzhou, your prestige plus 10,000. Ranked first in Juzhou, your prestige plus 90,000. Current prestige value 16005547. Li Nanqing's awakening was to the S-level Confucian Saint system, and Xiang Beifei's initial scores, ranking first among over 5 million test takers in Juzhou, surprisingly brought him a prestige value of 100,000. This truly surprised him, because even the second-place S-level Xinyu, who scored 679 points, only brought him 3,000 prestige points. And the third place added only 1,000. As for the rest, like Yang Hua, the prestige value was the same as their exam scores. Clearly, an N-level student, with initial scores surpassing all candidates in Juzhou, almost 20 points more than the top scholar of Juzhou, attracted immense attention. Many people who pay attention to the overall ranking also care about where the person with the highest initial scores comes from. If it's an S-level student, having the highest initial scores seems normal, and some people might not even check which school the student is from. It's enough just to know the student's name and feel envious. But it's different for an N-level. This year, the student with the highest initial scores is not S-level but an N-level awakener with the most common talent. This is major news. S-level is expected. N-level is an underdog's rise. More people are interested in the latter. With something as significant as college entrance exams, many naturally investigate where the student is from, starting from Juzhou to Liangzhou, then to the Western District and all the way to Luhe High School. Luhe High School became famous instantly, and being the principal of Luhe High School, Li Nanqing also gets mentioned, and the level of attention he receives increases invisibly. Even many Luhe High School alumni who are already working, when discussing this matter, mention to others that they too were students of Luhe High School. Thus, Li Nanqing's prestige value has frighteningly soared. It could be said that an N-level student ranking first attracts more attention than an S-level student achieving the same feat. Li Nanqing was also very excited. 100,000 prestige points. Just 2 months ago, he was nearly 300,000 prestige points away from 16 million. Even when this year's college entrance examination results were released, he still lacked nearly 200,000. If it weren't for Xiang Beifei helping him increase by 100,000 prestige value, he would probably have to wait until next year's college entrance exam to accumulate 16 million. 16 million, enough to exchange for a God-refining pill. His cultivation had been stuck in the late phase of meridian opening for 10 years, and for this God-refining pill, he had saved 10 years of prestige value and dared not use it recklessly. Now he had finally amassed enough. Xiang Beifei had given him an unprecedented increase of 105,000 in one go. Li Nanqing was filled with gratitude towards Xiang Beifei. However, he still suppressed his excitement and said, "Last time you mentioned that you wanted to apply for Liangzhou University. I specifically went to ask an old friend of mine at Liangzhou University, and he revealed some information about the assessment for elite universities at level N." Li Nanqing pondered for a moment and continued, "He didn't specify what the assessment entails, but he mentioned that it's not easy to pass." Xiang Beifei listened intently. "You should understand," Li Nanqing said. "Elite universities have stringent controls for N-level awakeners, and even Liangzhou University only has a tiny loophole. According to my friend, this loophole is so small it's practically negligible. After all, no N-level has entered Liangzhou University in nearly a decade. Shang Tianxiong's case was said to be special, but still, knowing that Xiang Beifei had a strong capacity to handle the truth, Li Nanqing no longer beat around the bush and got straight to the point. If you are prepared, I'll speak bluntly. In short, they give you an opportunity on paper, but in reality, they won't easily let you pass. The gates of elite universities were never open to N-level students. Xiang Beifei had anticipated this, but he hadn't given up and said, "Then I need to try." Li Nanqing nodded slightly. "I knew you would. Regardless of the outcome, I will help you make an attempt." That old friend mentioned that the assessment would be very difficult. Although he didn't go into detail, he mentioned that the person responsible for the assessment had a personal vendetta against your father. Xiang Beifei furrowed his brows. Li Nanqing sighed. "Your father was an SR-level awakener and a highly talented graduate of Liangzhou University, but any outstanding individual is bound to make enemies. I am not very clear about the specifics, but it's said that the person handling the assessment is someone named Yu Qixin. During his school days, he was chastised by your father. Later, Yu Qixin became a faculty member at Liangzhou University, and now he has encountered you. You must understand the implications. An old enemy disappeared, but now the enemy's son was coming to study at the school where he taught, and he was in charge of the entrance assessment. What a perfect opportunity for revenge. If he couldn't get even with your dad back then, would he let you off now?" Anyone aware of the details would probably understand that the entrance assessment, tainted by personal grudges, was no longer fair. Even missing, he didn't forget to leave a trap for me. Xiang Beifei mused. Where exactly Xiang Tianqing and his wife had gone, he had no recollection, and leaving him to be cared for by his grandfather was one thing, but now even attending school came with special attention. His father, whom he had never met, was indeed capable. "Yes. I think your father inadvertently left you a significant problem," Li Nanqing sighed. He knew the difficulty of Xiang Beifei's entrance examination had essentially increased. Yet, Xiang Beifei, watching Xiaohei napping on his shoulder, still had a calm and steady gaze. Many people liked to cause him trouble, but in the system world, what he least feared was trouble. It was just unknown how many opponents Xiang Tianqing made in school. It would have been better to inherit an enemy directory, so he could seek them out one by one. Otherwise, it might be embarrassing to mistakenly take someone else's system items. Those who had been bullied by Xiang Tianqing wanting to bully his son for revenge? No problem, he'd take a little notebook and jot down names. When the time came, Xiang Beifei could help them with their tasks. If he encountered someone who had bullied Xiang Tianqing and wanted to continue bullying his son, that was okay too. He'd also take a little notebook and jot that down, considering it revenge for his old man. 2 birds with 1 stone. Of course, this is just my guess. He wasn't specific, and I don't know if that's really the case. The final assessment might be something else entirely. I'm just giving you a heads up, Li Nanqing said. I understand. Xiang Beifei nodded. Li Nanqing was checking his system interface. After a moment, he spent 5,000 system points to exchange for a tortoise shell and handed it to Xiang Beifei. This is a Hichu tortoise shell. It possesses strong defensive capabilities, capable of withstanding attacks from the late stages of Qi controlling. If they raise the difficulty of the assessment, this Hichu tortoise shell can help you, he said. Xiang Beifei asked, is it permissible to rely on external forces during the assessment? This is an inherently unfair assessment. Protecting oneself is most important. Besides, you must understand that since everyone in this world can awaken a system, any help from the system is within the allowed range, Li Nanqing said. The greatest advantage of the system world is exactly this. No matter what system items you use, they are all within the rules. It all comes down to whether you have the strength and can utilize these system items effectively. Current prestige value, 1600547. Xiang Beifei's cultivation wasn't high. The external help Li Nanqing could offer was limited to the late stages of Qi controlling at most. This Hichu tortoise shell was the most suitable item he could come up with. He had wanted to give Xiang Beifei more life-saving measures, but his system points were at an awkward level. He needed to spend 16 million to purchase a god-refining pill. Spending more system points would prevent him from exchanging for the god-refining pill. The god-refining pill was too important to him. He had been stuck in the late stage of Meridian opening for 10 years and couldn't wait any longer. I'm sorry I can't offer you more help. I must get that God-refining pill. Once I step into the God-refining stage, if your assessment has not yet started, I will find a way to compensate you with more items. Li Nanxing silently told Xiang Beifei in his heart. Xiang Beifei had contributed a whole 100,000 system points to him. He knew he should use system points to exchange for more items to help Xiang Beifei through this assessment, but the need for the God-refining pill was too pressing, and he couldn't afford to waste more system points. Thank you. Xiang Beifei accepted the Hichu tortoise shell. A late-stage qi-controlling spiritual qi crystal was still very important to him. After a while, Li Nanxing added, "Oh, our school offers a reward for the valedictorian. A scholarship of 50,000 yuan. Specific matters will be notified to you later. There is an application process." Xiang Beifei's eyes lit up. 50,000 yuan scholarship. He had already gathered more than half of the 100,000 yuan tuition fee. "Thank you, Principal," Xiang Beifei said again. "Don't mention it. You should hear the news by next Monday when you submit your preferences. Now go celebrate. I believe your grandfather is already eagerly waiting," Li Nanxing said with a smile. "Okay. Then, Principal, I'll head back first." With the results out, Xiang Beifei had no need to stay at school. Others might spend time celebrating their scores, but he preferred to spend his time on cultivation. After seeing Xiang Beifei off, Li Nanxing closed the door, his gaze returning to the system interface, a sense of excitement building within him. It's been 10 years. A full 10 years to save up 16 million prestige points, which was indeed a difficult task. Though he had awakened an S-grade system and his cultivation was higher than many people's, the system's tasks became tougher toward the end. Stepping into the God-refining stage was a height many could not reach in their lifetimes. "Xiang Beifei, I owe you a favor. Once I step into the God-refining stage, if you need any help in the future, I will do my utmost to assist you," Li Nanxing promised silently. Li Nanxing trembled slightly as he looked at the God-refining pill, his eyes filled with intense eagerness. "Would you like to spend 16 million prestige points to exchange for a God-refining pill?" Suppressing his excitement, Li Nanxing responded almost tremblingly, "Yes. 16 million prestige points spent to exchange for a God-refining pill. Exchange successful. Current prestige value, 547. System reward is being issued. Reward issuance complete." Li Nanxing reached out his hand, waiting for the God-refining pill to appear in his palm. 10 seconds passed. His hand was still empty. No rush. Such a powerful pill. Li Nanxing reminded himself. But the reward was too important for him, and with every second that passed in waiting, it felt like an eternity. A minute went by. There was still nothing in his hand. Li Nanxing wiped off some sweat, feeling uneasy, but still tried to calm himself down. Don't worry, just wait a little longer." And he waited for 3 minutes. Panic began to set in for Li Nanxing. "Where is my God-refining pill?" he murmured to himself. Reward distributed successfully. How could this be? He was over 60 years old and had awakened this system nearly 50 years ago. He was very familiar with his system, as every time he wanted to exchange for something, it happened almost instantly. So why was today's system God-refining pill missing? Reward distributed successfully. The system prompted again. No, this can't be happening. Li Nanxing started frantically searching his office. He turned the whole office upside down, but the God-refining pill was nowhere to be found. During this time, everyone was on the training field, only Xiang Beifei and he were in the teaching building. Could it be that Xiang Beifei took it? But he didn't have the ability to do that. After all, he was a late-stage Meridian opening practitioner. If Xiang Beifei had taken it, how could he possibly not have noticed? Besides, knowing the boy's character, it wasn't possible for him to do such a thing. Could it be that the system has malfunctioned again? He had encountered such situations before when there would sometimes be a miscalculation in the system's database. Once, when he was in the Outer Realm Wilderness, the system had a scanning anomaly incorrectly estimating the strength of a desolate beast which had caused him a lot of trouble. The reason turned out to be that the desolate beast had a bizarre ability that interfered with the system's judgment. When he was young, there was also an incident where he had just exchanged for a pill, and just as it landed in his hand, it was suddenly swept away by a gust of wind and disappeared without a trace. But those were low-probability events. The system had told him that the chance of an S-rank system experiencing an anomaly was 1 in 10,000. You don't mean to tell me that today, on such an important day, the 1 in 10,000 anomaly has occurred? Li Nanqing slumped in his chair, his complexion turning as pale as paper. How could this happen? Why does the 1 in 10,000 probability have to occur right now? 10 years. If this 1 in 10,000 probability had indeed swallowed up his system reward, would he then need to collect another 16 million prestige value, meaning another 10 years? He was already 60 years old. How many decades did he have left? Li Nanqing felt as if all the strength had been drained from his body, listlessly sitting in his chair, panting heavily, and seeming to have aged 10 years in an instant. Xiang Beifei was walking down the stairs, unaware of what had happened in the principal's office, when suddenly Xiaohe began to bark happily. He turned his head and was astonished to find Xiaohe holding a light blue medicinal pill, joyfully playing with it. The pill was entirely blue, with many profound patterns on it, and emitted a refreshing medicinal fragrance. Just a slight sniff made one feel completely revitalized. A deep and terrifying aura seemed to swirl around the pill. Where did this come from? Xiang Beifei looked at the blue pill in amazement. It was the most potent pill he had ever seen. Soon, he suddenly remembered God-refining pill. It was actually a God-refining pill. He had seen it in Principal Li Nanqing's system interface. Xiaohe, did you take the principal's God-refining pill? Xiang Beifei said in surprise. Woof, woof, woof. Xiaohe, holding the pill, happily rubbed and cuddled it. Are you saying that the spiritual qi crystal contained in this pill can light up all the constellations from mid-qi controlling to mid-meridian opening? Woof, woof, woof. With this pill, could I possibly step into the meridian opening period within half a year? Xiang Beifei was truly shocked. This God-refining pill actually had such a terrifying power? Within half a year, to step into the meridian opening period, and to light up 6 constellations, granting him 6 additional abilities. To be honest, even Xiang Beifei was greatly astonished after hearing this. It was impossible not to be moved. Such a thing could save him from taking so many detours. As long as he could reach the meridian opening period, what would the assessments at Liangzhou University count for? Those so-called geniuses from elite universities would be nothing compared to him. Xiang Beifei felt his breathing become a bit rapid. But he remained silent, striving to suppress those emotions. After a long while he spoke. Xiaohe, return it. Woof. Xiaohe looked at Xiang Beifei, puzzled. The principal is a person of high virtue and respect. He deserves our respect. We don't take his belongings, Xiang Beifei said. Even though he knew he had increased Principal Li Nanqing system value by 100,000 that day, and getting the pill was a bit of help from him, he still resisted the enormous temptation brought by the God-refining pill. This pill, which took nearly 10 years to save up, was vitally important to the principal. Woof! Xiaohe whined softly. I know it's a pity, but there are many ways to become stronger. This is not the only one, Xiang Beifei said, petting Xiaohe's head. For those who liked to trouble him, Xiang Beifei would show no mercy, regardless of how much time they had spent. He would not even furrow his brow. For those willing to help him, Xiang Beifei would respect them and even help them complete system tasks for free. He was clear about his debts and grudges. This was his principle. Woof! Xiaohe reluctantly licked the God-refining pill, then with a flick of his tail, tossed it away. The God-refining pill flashed a blue light as it flew through the air, disappearing from sight. Li Nanqing was bewildered, feeling the world spinning around him, as if drained of all strength. He sat on the chair, hands on his forehead, his head in chaos. How could it be gone? How could it be gone? He felt a sense of despair, experiencing for the first time how life could be so devastating. A decade of hard work ruined in an instant, it was nearly the end of him. He didn't even know what he had been working towards these past 10 years. Thump, thump. Some sound bounced twice on the table, emitting a dull thud. Li Nanxing looked up listlessly and glanced at the table. Immediately after, he saw the blue pill. It lay there quietly, radiating a powerful and profound aura. Li Nanxing suddenly stood up from the chair. He looked incredulously at the God-refining pill that had appeared out of nowhere, even doubting his own eyes, wondering if it was a hallucination born from desperation. Is this an illusion? Li Nanxing reached out his trembling, aged hand and touched the God-refining pill on the table. It wasn't an illusion. It was a real pill. Life returned to his dim eyes. He then grabbed the God-refining pill, dense and profound, smooth as jade. It's the God-refining pill. The God-refining pill. Li Nanxing clung tightly to the pill that had been lost and now found, holding it so firmly as if afraid it would disappear again. He took a deep breath, overcome with emotion. Life's dramatic fluctuations occurred within such a fleeting moment. Thank goodness it's still here. Thank goodness it's still here. Thank goodness it's still here. He didn't even think about where the God-refining pill had gone just now. Just having it in hand was a stroke of immense good fortune for him. Without delay, he planned to find a place to refine the pill immediately and ensure no further mishaps would occur. Xiang Beifei stood around the corner, looking through the glass window at Li Nanxing's ecstatic countenance. It turned out that even the usually refined and gentle principal could have such a moment of discomposure. He felt somewhat apologetic as he hadn't communicated well with Xiaohe. The little creature thought the item would benefit him greatly, so it took the principal's belongings, nearly causing the principal to collapse. Regardless, it had ultimately been returned. He himself still needed to grow stronger step by step through cultivation. He didn't feel like he had lost anything, but instead calmly turned and went downstairs. Xiang Qingde and Lu Jiwei were waiting for him, while Kong Xiuwen and his son had already gone home to prepare for the evening's celebratory banquet, leaving a message for them to join without fail. The school was still surrounded by a large crowd, and Xiang Beifei didn't want to stay any longer, so he left with them. Beifei, have you decided which university to apply for? Lu Jiwei asked. Don't worry, with such scores, even if I don't get into an elite university, the other universities will still be vying for me, Xiang Qingde said happily. Xiang Beifei said, I still want to try for Liangzhou University. Xiang Qingde was stunned for a moment. In the past few days, feeling guilty for being an incompetent parent, he had rushed to learn about the college entrance examination and asked around. He knew that 8 of the 9 elite universities did not admit N-level awakeners. The words of Zhuo Jing had also made it very clear that Liangzhou University, although it did admit N-level students, had a very high threshold. Now that Xiang Beifei's scores met the requirements, he still needed to pass the entrance assessment. Only if the assessment was passed could he attend, and if he failed, he would still be eliminated. But Xiang Qingde earnestly said, Great! Whatever you decide to do, Grandpa will support you. Xiang Qingde, willing to humble himself before others for the sake of a retake, naturally would also unconditionally support his grandson's choice, regardless of the cost. He was determined to help his grandson move forward. Meanwhile, Lu Jiwei's eyes lit up. In past years, N-level candidates rarely applied for Liangzhou University because the pass rate was so low that many high-scoring N-level candidates retreated understanding the difficulty. But Xiang Beifei was different. This guy, usually dopey and unconcerned with competing with others, was one of those who never showed his hand unless it turned out to be astounding. Perhaps he really could create a miracle. Then I'll wait for you at Liangzhou University. Lu Jiwei couldn't wait for Xiang Beifei to report to Liangzhou University in September. Then she would be his senior. She looked forward to using various opportunities to rub shoulders with him and learn his reasoning abilities. Yang Hua was in high spirits. Although he had been shocked by Xiang Beifei's score, had made a fool of himself by making some snide remarks, and then had his face slapped hard by the reality. So what? If Xiang Beifei scored high, then so be it. He wasn't at a loss at all. You might think I would feel ashamed for what I just did, but you would be wrong. In this world, things like face aren't important. System tasks are the real deal. Xiang Beifei scored 732 points, which meant 732 points were added to his teacher prestige value. Not only that, but because the top scorer of the school was from his class, he was granted an additional 10,000 points, for a total of 10,732 points. He only had an R-level system, not as high as Li Nanqing's S-level, and since many outsiders generally pay more attention to the name of the school rather than the classroom, he didn't earn as many system points as Li Nanqing did with his S-level system. But it was enough to make a fortune. All the students in his class had contributed to his teacher prestige value, with Xiang Beifei adding the most. In total, the class contributed 41,544 points. Delightful. Hello, Professor Yang, we meet again. Do you remember me? I'm Yu Lei, a reporter from the Liangzhou Strait Metropolitan Daily. We met on the System Awakening Day, said a person who looked like a reporter who had approached him. This man wore glasses, had a crew cut, and sported a jacket over his shirt. He thrust a large microphone in front of Yang Hua. Oh, it's you. Yang Hua remembered Yu Lei. Reporters usually showed up during the System Awakening and when high school exam results came out. Host. Yu Lei. R-level. I want to make headlines system. Realm. Mid-phase of Qi controlling. As a senior reporter from the small TV station in the Western District, Yu Lei needed to dig up information that could make the headlines, completing tasks by pushing news to the forefront. The reporters were also itching to break a major story. If a school reported the awakening of an SR talent, that would be explosive news, and they would definitely want to secure the exclusive. Before the System Awakening ceremony, Yu Lei had been staking out early, interviewing all the class homeroom teachers in advance to prepare, and Yang Hua was one of those he interviewed. Unfortunately, the news of that day wasn't eye-catching. Luhe High School had no awakeners with SR talent. The only thing of note was Xiang Beifei's Thunderstone. Just when everyone thought they were about to witness a phoenix rise from the grass nest, it turned out to be a wild goose chase. This kind of news merely caused a small ripple in the pond. Neither here nor there. Although it was reported, the heat didn't pick up. Today, with the college entrance examination results released, Yu Lei, as a reporter with a news headline-type system who had undergone awakening, naturally wanted to cover the conditions of the examinees. Initially, he staked out another high school in the Western District, since he believed that school had traditionally performed better than Luhe High School, with last year's top scholar of Liangzhou coming from that school. The odds of achieving high results were seen as greater there. Unfortunately, he set his sights on the wrong target this year, but he soon found out that a candidate from Luhe High School scored 732 this year, holding the top original score in the whole Jiuzhou. And such a high-scoring candidate was only an N-level awakener. N-level. 732 points. The first in original score. Outranked by candidates who received bonus points. Unable to attend elite universities. All these were hot topics fit for making the headlines. Yu Lei immediately smelled the news value, and with his years of experience as a journalist and understanding of the market news, he brewed up in his mind the sort of press release that would create a sensation and attract society's attention. Shocking! A candidate with 732 points, rejected by 9 elite universities. Candidate with 732 points, unable to attend elite universities. The reason is, he thought through the way to write the article, planning to criticize from 3 levels, for perspectives, and 5 points of view the unreasonable practices of the 9 elite universities in admitting awakeners. He then aimed to introduce Xiang Beifei's difficult journey in education, condemning the irrational phenomena in the assessment system, perfectly creating a media storm. If such an article were to be published, it would definitely spark intense discussions, securing a top spot on the hot search lists of major websites and making news headlines with no issues. This would assuredly earn him a hefty amount of system value. But sadly, by the time he arrived at Luhe High School, he couldn't find Xiang Beifei, so Yu Lei immediately turned to Yang Hua, preparing to get some information about Xiang Beifei from him first. Professor Yang, I heard that Xiang Beifei was brought up by you. Can you tell me what kind of student he usually is? Yu Lei eagerly inquired. What kind of student was Xiang Beifei? A glint of cunning flashed in Yang Hua's eyes. Being Xiang Beifei's homeroom teacher and seeing him score such unimaginable results wasn't something he had expected. Normally, he always found various faults in Xiang Beifei, constantly berating him. Just moments ago, he spoke so rudely in front of Xiang Qingde. However, now that a reporter was interviewing him, how could he reveal those things? As Xiang Beifei's homeroom teacher who had produced a top scholar for the school, if this made the news, it would undoubtedly elevate his own status. Even if Xiang Beifei couldn't enter the elite universities, so what? It was talent that blocked him from those universities, not something he could influence. After all, high school teaches academic knowledge, which is linked to the teaching ability of teachers. If other parents were to hear that he has taught a top scholar, wouldn't they break down doors to cram their children into his class? He could then handpick those students with good academic performance. Every year during the college entrance exams, he would be able to collect a major wave of teacher prestige value. Yang Hua keenly seized the opportunity. He immediately put on a smile, looking radiant, and said, "That's right, Xiang Beifei, the student. I have always had high hopes for him. His past academic performance wasn't very promising, but I constantly encouraged him, telling him not to be discouraged. I helped him plug the gaps in his knowledge, and his progress was rapid. You could say that his achievement of such high scores today is the result of our joint efforts." Facing the camera, Yang Hua spoke with confidence and sincerity, attributing Xiang Beifei's high scores to his own efforts. He didn't need to worry about what Xiang Beifei thought, regardless of whatever grievances they had. Those were private matters. In front of the camera, he naturally had to say nice things. He was certain that if Xiang Beifei was interviewed and asked if he was thankful to his teacher, even if Xiang Beifei held considerable resentment, he would only be able to say thank you in front of the camera. Otherwise, such a top scholar could easily be branded as ungrateful. From any angle, being extremely strict as a teacher, nitpicking every day, verbally scolding students, looking down on them, could all be framed as a form of motivation and packaged as the strict teacher produces outstanding students teaching method which no one could refute. Yang Hua had placed himself on the moral high ground. The exam results had been announced. It was the end of July, leaving only one more month of vacation. During this month, he had many things to keep him busy. Earning money, the Liangzhou University assessment, and cultivating. For him, cultivation was still the most important endeavor. At the moment, he was only in the mid-stage of qi controlling, and his strength wasn't very high. He needed to cultivate to the later stages of qi controlling as soon as possible. Lu Jiwei had originally wanted to cling to Xiang Beifei to learn reasoning skills, but Xiang Beifei told her, "Once I get into Liangzhou University, won't you have more time to bother me?" "Right, that makes sense." Lu Jiwei happily left without bothering him further. Xiang Beifei locked himself back in his room, thinking he could focus on cultivation, but he soon realized he was wrong. Scoring such high marks was not something people would just overlook easily. After interviewing Yang Hua, Yu Lei came to his home and knocked on the door, ready to interview the N-level student. Xiang Qingde, who answered the door, looked at Yu Lei with a puzzled expression and asked, "Who are you looking for?" "Hello, I am a reporter from the Liangzhou Strait Metropolitan Daily. My name is Yu Lei. You must be the grandfather of Xiang Beifei, this year's top scholar from Luhe High School, right? It's a pleasure to meet you. May I interview you about your grandson's achievements?" Yu Lei got straight to the point. "An interview?" Xiang Qingde furrowed his brows. His grandson was preparing for the Liangzhou University assessment, and interviews were a waste of time and meaningless. He shook his head and said, "It's not necessary, my grandson doesn't like these kinds of things." As he spoke, he was about to close the door. Wait. Yu Lei extended his hand to block the door, displaying a professionally courteous smile, and said, "Old Master Xiang, you must be aware that with Xiang Beifei's talents, even with such high scores, it is nearly impossible for him to get into an elite university. But as a reporter, if I can interview him and properly report his predicament, it could cause those within the entire societal system to reflect. Under pressure from all sides, Perhaps the elite universities might lower their thresholds. Yulei, as a news worker, often dealt with a variety of people and had a keen eye for reading them. He knew exactly what would persuade Xiang Qingde. Upon hearing Yulei's words, Xiang Qingde hesitated. He knew that Xiang Beifei had decided to apply to Liangzhou University, but he was also aware of how difficult the assessments at Liangzhou University were. For 10 consecutive years, no N-level students had been admitted, making the hope of entrance exceedingly slim. Yet what Yulei said held a certain truth. Xiang Beifei wasn't just another N-level awakener scoring 680 points. He was first among all Jiuzhou candidates with an original score of 732. Although Xiang Qingde didn't quite understand the internet, he was aware that news reports could inform more people about this matter. If more people paid attention to the fact that high-scoring students were unable to attend elite universities, it might cause a sensation. In that case, Xiang Beifei's chances of getting into Liangzhou University could indeed be higher. Seeing Xiang Qingde's hesitation, Yulei quickly continued, "Old master, rest assured. I will report this matter from the most professional perspective. I also think that it's a waste for your grandson with such results to attend an ordinary university. But I can help you. I just need a simple interview with your grandson. It won't take long, at most 1 hour." Xiang Qingde hesitated for a moment but felt it was a good idea. So he said, "I'll go ask. Wait here." Xiang Qingde let Yulei into the house, poured him a glass of water, then walked to Xiang Beifei's bedroom door, knocked and said, "Xiaofei, may I come in?" "Grandpa, is something the matter?" Xiang Beifei opened the door. Xiang Qingde glanced at Yulei sitting outside and said, "A reporter wants to interview you. He said he wants to cover your story as the top scorer in the college entrance examination." Xiang Beifei looked up at Yulei, his gaze sweeping over the other's system interface, and his brow slightly furrowed. The tasks on the other party's system interface and their intentions were clear as day to Xiang Beifei. After pondering for a moment, he let his grandfather into the bedroom, then closed the door and said, "Grandpa, I don't need to accept this person's interview. The reporter told me that you are the candidate with the highest original score, and if this is blown up, it might create some public opinion pressure and make Liangzhou University more inclined to admit you or something," Xiang Qingde said.
No.
Xiang Beifei immediately shook his head. Not understanding, Xiang Qingde asked, "Why not? You want to go to Liangzhou University, and he's trying to help you, isn't he?" Grandpa must understand something. The rule that elite universities don't admit N-level students has existed for a long time, but it's never changed. They won't alter their rules just because of a reporter's article. Xiang Beifei paused, then continued, "Being admitted through public opinion won't convince everyone, and it will leave them with a bad impression. Who knows, they might raise the difficulty even further during the admission assessment to prevent me from passing. Then they'll tell everyone that it's not that they don't admit N-level students, but that an N-level student like me doesn't have the ability." Principal Li Nanqing had already warned him that the admission examination was going to be overseen by Xiang Tianqing's old adversary, which made it difficult enough. If public opinion got involved, and Liangzhou University sought to offset the pressure by raising the bar, then Xiang Beifei would face an even worse situation. Xiang Qingde thought for a moment and then said, "But it's also possible that Liangzhou University might lower the examination difficulty due to public pressure, isn't it? The rule that elite universities don't admit N-level students should indeed be changed. If we want to change the situation of elite universities not admitting N-level students, we should rely on N-level students to prove that they have the ability to enroll in elite universities, not on public pressure to get N-level students into elite universities. The type of school determines the intensity of the study required, and indeed, the academic rigors of an elite school aren't something a normal N-level student can keep up with. Once admitted through public pressure, they will also find excuses to expel me later, telling everyone it's because I couldn't keep up with the progress of study at an elite university. Then they'll take back the public narrative and prove that there's a reason for the school not admitting N-level students. Xiang Beifei spoke earnestly. They have their rules and I will enter according to their rules. That way they will have nothing to say. Grandpa, I have confidence in passing Liangzhou University's assessment with my own strength. There's no need to resort to public opinion. Can you believe in me just this once? What mattered most was that the reporter, according to the tasks shown on his system interface, came to interview with a far from straightforward purpose. Xiang Qingde thought seriously about Xiang Beifei's words before he realized they were right. If they relied on public pressure for admission, Xiang Beifei would easily become a target for discrimination, which would be unfriendly to his future. Especially since Xiang Beifei hadn't even participated in the admission assessment yet. Doing such a thing was indeed inappropriate. What you say makes sense. We should rightfully pass the assessment and prove ourselves that N-level students also have the capability to attend elite universities. If you prove yourself, they will eventually change their views on N-level students, and this will be the best way to diminish discrimination against N-level students. This time I must believe in you. I'm going to refuse him right now. Xiang Qingde agreed with Xiang Beifei's point of view. The college entrance examination results had made him realize that his grandson was truly intelligent. He had no reason to doubt his grandson's judgment anymore. Xiang Qingde opened the door and stepped out, saying to Yulei, "Sorry, my child is unwilling to accept the interview. He hasn't yet decided to choose Liangzhou University." Xiang Qingde knew very well how to refuse others tactfully. Simply by saying that his child had not yet planned to choose Liangzhou University, making an interview with Yulei unnecessary. Yulei obviously paused, then said, "But with such high scores, is he content to miss out on an elite university? He has his own plans. Attending an elite university comes with risks, but with his scores, he can pick and choose among the remaining universities. We're very satisfied with that. There's no need to fret too much. Contentment brings happiness, doesn't it?" Xiang Qingde explained cheerfully, quite adept at covering for his own child. "Mr. Xiang, if your child is unwilling to accept my interview, then I can interview you instead. As long as you cooperate with me, I can definitely create public opinion that will get your child into a better university. As a parent, don't you want to see your child become classmates with even more outstanding individuals in an elite university?" Yulei was not giving up easily. "No need. I have other matters to attend to and cannot entertain you any longer. Please understand." Xiang Qingde was very firm in his stance. Yulei spent a lot of effort trying to persuade him, but was ultimately unable to and had to leave Xiang Qingde's home. Having descended the stairs, Yulei stood at the street corner, took a cigarette from his pocket, took a puff and then slowly exhaled the smoke. The swirling smoke framed his face, casting it in a somewhat gloomy light. What a pair of fools, too proud for their own good. Yulei spat on the ground with disgust. Before coming here, he had been confident about this interview. His keen senses had detected hot topics in this event that could spark discussions across all circles. The raw score of 732, first in Zhuzhou, unable to enter an elite university due to an N-level awakener talent, the irrationality of the recruitment system of the 9 elite universities, all it needed was a little guiding, and these could become extensively sensationalized topics. He had thought that his reasons would be irresistible, that any other parent would wisely take advantage of the media to help their child, eager for the journalist's assistance. But unexpectedly, this top-scoring student had no intention of going to Liangzhou University, and he had been bluntly turned away. Yulei felt extremely irritated. "Pa, did you really think I wanted to help you get into Liangzhou University?" He tapped his cigarette against the wall corner, watching the broken ashes drift away with the wind, and snorted coldly. Truth be told, he had never intended to use media pressure to help Xiang Beifei get into university. In fact, he was hoping Xiang Beifei would fail to get into Liangzhou University. If an N-level student was admitted to Liangzhou University, the news would at most express amazement at the student and say his future was limitless, considering him a hidden talent, a second Shang Tianxiong. Such news stories could only sensationalize one aspect, the potential of this N-level student. But Zhuzhou was never short of talented individuals with potential, frequently featuring an SR-level genius here, a business prodigy there. Such reports were far too common. However, if Xiang Beifei were to be eliminated during the Liangzhou University assessment process, that would be worth sensationalizing. He could exploit angles like Liangzhou University deliberately making it hard for N-level high-scoring students, setting up barriers to prevent N-level talents from passing, or why the discrimination against N-level students are elite universities worth reconsidering, or even, does the system talent truly determine everything? All these perspectives were thought-provoking, could uncover the true value of the news, and would bring more traffic to him as the journalist responsible for the coverage, helping him complete more tasks of making the headlines. So Yu Lei was the person who least wanted Xiang Beifei to be admitted to Liangzhou University. He was a journalist and self-proclaimed public intellectual, with a combined following of over 1 million across various social media platforms. Reporting positively on someone's excellence was commonplace, and such news bored everyone. But taking a negative slant could attract a cluster of internet users who, frustrated by the ups and downs of daily life, only vent on their keyboards against heaven, earth, and thin air, without giving any thought to their own issues. His followers liked to see reports from a negative perspective. For those in the media, the most important thing was to find one point of interest in trivial matters, then blow it out of proportion to catch the public's eye, spark debate, push the discussions to go viral, become headline news, and gain massive marketing traffic. To achieve this, Yu Lei could exaggerate without any bottom line and twist facts. All he needed to consider was how to write the news to garner the most attention. The actual truth seemed much less important. So even though Yu Lei had everyone discussing the discrimination against N-level awakeners, he certainly wasn't truly on the side of those N-level awakeners. He stood on the side of traffic. After all, he wasn't the one being discriminated against. As an R-level awakener, he usually looked down on N-level awakeners himself. In the past, Yu Lei had secretly bribed the parties involved to complete his headline tasks, disregarding the facts to fabricate news, engaging in countless such shady dealings. He had already figured out how to draft the article on the Xiang Beifei incident. However, this grandfather and grandson duo were clearly unappreciative of his offer and had actually rejected his cooperation. If you think rejection will make me give up, then you're seriously underestimating me. Yu Lei looked at his system interface. You have selected the task. Hype up the N-level top scorer incident. Direction for the hype. 1. Help them get into Liangzhou University. Positively promote the candidate. 2. Prevent them from getting into Liangzhou University. Negatively spin associated hot topics. You have chosen 2. Current task. Hype up the Xiang Beifei incident. Reach the top 20 in discussion heat on any media platform's trending list. Earn plus 1,000 headline points. Can be cumulative. Current headline points, 132,783. Note: buying trend spots is invalid. Reward for completing a trending task. Choose any 2 from the following. Stealth Talisman X1, used for invisible tracking. Truth-telling Talisman X1, can extract truthful statements. Memory Talisman X1, can alter someone's memory. Control Talisman X1, can control the will of others. What a pity that I've used up all my control talismans. Yu Lei frowned slightly, for the control talisman could be used to alter a person's will, to change someone's decisions, like if someone wanted to refuse something, the talisman could make them agree. These talismans were only effective on those whose realm was lower than his own. In the past, he used control talismans to make people accept his interviews and say what he wanted them to say in front of the camera. Of course, sometimes he would exchange them for memory talismans too, such as after engaging in dirty activities, he would use a memory talisman to make a person forget what had just happened, thus freeing himself from unnecessary trouble. To him, these system items were very practical, but they were also in high demand and short supply. Currently, he only had 2 memory talismans and 1 stealth talisman. Why not simply spend 1,000 headline points to buy a control talisman? Yu Lei pondered whether this choice would be cost-effective, but decided it was not worth it after some consideration. He needed to save up 150,000 headline points to exchange for a chi-raising talisman, which would help him advance to the later stages of chi controlling. In his previous attempts to obtain news clues, he had spent many headline points to exchange for control talismans and memory talismans to manipulate the news subjects. Unfortunately, once the news was reported, the response was lukewarm, like throwing a stone into the sea, hardly making a splash. Not making the news headlines meant the system points were wasted, which pained him for a long time. Hot searches are something that celebrities and marketing companies can easily achieve with some money, but his system did not work that way. It required genuinely completing tasks. Sometimes, his own miscalculations could also lead to failure. Now, he needed to conserve headline points, ensuring he collected 150,000 to progress to the later stage of chi controlling. The higher his cultivation, the more he could achieve. Forget it, it's more important to create a topic first. If this topic hits the hot search, then dealing with those two isn't too late. Yulei opened his personal camera to check the photos he had just taken. They were close-ups of Xiang Beifei's living room, which he had secretly snapped a few photos of while Xiang Qingde was talking to his grandson. Yulei was not satisfied with these photos. Although Xiang Qingde's home was somewhat impoverished, everything was tidy and clean. Even the stovetop utensils shone brightly. This did not meet his expectations. He had wanted to create a poor boy makes good sensation, which required dilapidated, dusty walls and messy, cramped furniture for contrast. However, despite only living with his grandson, their place was well maintained, with not many furniture pieces, just enough for their needs, making their home comfortable to live in without giving off an impoverished vibe. Clearly, although poor in material wealth, these two were not poor in spirit and took life very seriously. The photos can be completely fabricated. Yulei planned to later find a graphic designer to edit the photos, making them look more disordered. He saw a garbage bin nearby and after a slight contemplation, seeing no one around, he kicked the bin, scattering trash everywhere, then frantically snapped photos of the garbage pile. An academic prodigy emerging from a filthy, chaotic slum. Isn't this material perfect? Hee. Yulei casually threw a cigarette butt on the ground and then strode away. Unbeknownst to him, a gaze from above the windowsill had been fixed on him the whole time. All right, if you must do it this way. Xiang Beifei withdrew his gaze. He had seen the other party's system interface and understood exactly what the guy was up to, hence his firm rejection. Yulei thought this time would be like the usual, easily crafting fake news, but he did not realize that Xiang Beifei had seen his chosen system task clearly. Xiang Beifei did not think further. Instead, he turned back and continued to sit on the bed to cultivate the chaos yin-yang formula. In the evening, Kong Daming warmly invited Xiang Qingde and Xiang Beifei to his restaurant for dinner, as it was a celebration for Kong Shouwen, and, therefore, Beifei did not refuse and went with Qingde. Kong Daming's restaurant business was thriving. The place was large, and he flamboyantly displayed two banners, reading warmly celebrating Kong Shouwen's scoring above elite university admission line in the college entrance exam, and warmly celebrating Xiang Beifei attaining the top scholar position in Luhe High School. Xiang Beifei was somewhat surprised. He had not expected Kong Daming to also hang a banner for him. Haha, I originally wanted to arrange something bigger, but time was tight, so let's just have a small gathering tonight. After you also pass the assessment at Liangzhou University, I'll throw a big celebration for you and Shouwen. Kong Daming cheerfully greeted Xiang Qingde and his grandson. Xiang Beifei and Kong Shouwen were childhood friends, and Kong Daming had watched Xiang Beifei grow up, so he was always good to Xiang Beifei. Come on, we're all family here. No need to be formal, Kong Shouwen's mother, Chun Xiuqin, said with a smile. It's Xiaofei who's really going places, much more so than my Shouwen. I'm worried when I look at his grades. Auntie, he's at least confirmed to be going to Liangzhou University, Xiang Beifei said. That's just good luck. Don't worry, I have high hopes for you too, Xiaofei. You'll definitely make it as well, Chun Xiuqin said, then turned to Xiang Qingde. Don't worry, old man, Xiaofei can do it. Xiang Qingde smiled. Then I'll count on your good words. Chun Xiuqin awakened the S-grade Jianmei system and was a hairdresser. With the help of her system, her hairstyling skills were superb. She owned 5 salon branches, often traveling to style hair for celebrity teams. Before we eat, let me give you both a haircut, symbolizing, accumulating thickness and welcoming renewal. With a flourish, Chun Xiuqin produced 2 shiny scissors. Xiang Beifei touched his own short hair, which had been cut very short due to the rules set by Yang Hua, and said, "My hair isn't long enough. I don't just cut hair short," Chun Xiuqin said with a mysterious smile, clicking the black scissors in her left hand. "I can make it grow longer too." Now that was interesting. Xiang Beifei glanced at Chun Xiuqin's system and saw that the black scissors in her left hand were a magical item from the system. Unlike other scissors that cut hair short, these scissors could make hair grow long. She's always liked these superstitious things. Originally, it was my thick hair that caught her eye, and she chased after me, wanting to practice her hairdressing skills on me every day. "Having thick hair has its benefits," said Kong Daming as he proudly ran his hand through his dense hair, akin to seaweed. Chun Xiuqin kicked Kong Daming lightly. "Stop your nonsense. Who chased whom? You know very well. If you hadn't relentlessly pestered me with that thick skin of yours, would I have fallen for you?" Dive deeper into the story on MVMPYR. Hee hee. Kong Daming shook his hair and then smugly patted his round belly, winking surreptitiously at Xiang Beifei and Kong Xiuwen. Kong Xiuwen looked resigned. It was true he had inherited his dad's thick hair, but he had awakened the hair loss system, where less hair meant stronger powers, and the lost hair would not grow back. Fortunately, the hair that had not shed could still grow longer. Seize the last moments of handsomeness before the hair loss begins. Kong Xiuwen touched his own hair, looking resigned to his fate. Xiang Beifei wondered if Chun Xiuqin cutting too many people's hair caused Kong Xiuwen to awaken the hair loss system. But regardless, Kong Xiuwen's system was at least S-grade with great potential. "Quick, let's get you new hairstyles. Having a crew cut is too rigid. You need something more stylish." Chun Xiuqin especially disliked crew cuts, and if it weren't for the school rule set by Yang Hua, prohibiting long hair, she would definitely change Kong Xiuwen's hairstyle every day. Without further ado, Chun Xiuqin dragged both Kong Xiuwen and Xiang Beifei to the adjacent salon. Chun Xiuqin was about to cut Xiang Beifei's hair, and Xiang Beifei didn't refuse. He was quite curious about the capabilities of the Yijian Mei system. After one snip, Xiang Beifei's hair, originally only about 1 centimeter long, had grown to 5 or 6 centimeters. Then she began to trim his hair meticulously. With the scissors in her left hand, she cut the hair that was too short, and with the scissors in her right hand, she cut off the hair that was too long. Using a comb that automatically styled hair, she hooked here and trimmed there, designing a sunny-looking hairstyle for Xiang Beifei. A good hairstylist can change a person's aura and spirit. With this look combined with the hairstyle, it could charm a crowd of girls. Chun Xiuqin looked at her masterpiece with satisfaction. "You designed a new hairstyle for Xiang Beifei. Hairstyle rating: 96, proficiency plus 96. Achieved a score of 90. A new tool will be randomly given. You have drawn Golden Jiao Scissors." Upon seeing the system prompt, Chun Xiuqin was initially stunned and then burst into laughter. "Ha! Xiaofei, you really are my lucky charm." Usually, it was difficult for haircut scores to reach above 90 points. For an average person to achieve a 60 was already quite good. It would probably take cutting a few hundred people's hair to maybe see one 90-point score. She hadn't expected to achieve it today, and even drew a pair of Golden Jiao scissors. Xiang Beifei carefully examined the introduction of the Golden Jiao scissors and discovered that these scissors were an extremely powerful weapon in combat capable of cutting through anything one realm higher than itself. This was some good stuff. However, Xiang Beifei did not touch the Golden Jiao scissors. He found that Chun Xiuqin was not just a hairdresser walking the literary Dao. In her completed system task list, she had even killed quite a few desolate beasts. "Auntie, did you practice martial cultivation before?" Xiang Beifei asked. "Why suddenly ask this?" Chun Xiuqin had taken away the Golden Jiao scissors and was examining them closely, asking casually, "I vaguely heard my parents mention you before." "Oh." Chun Xiuqin looked at Xiang Beifei somewhat surprised, then pondered for a moment and nodded slightly. "Daming, your parents, and I were all university classmates. We had initially planned on becoming pioneers, but later on, Daming and I gave up and decided to be plain ordinary people instead. Uncle Kong and Auntie were pioneers too? A system for cooking and a system for hairdressing, and they were pioneers? Any system can choose to pursue the martial or literary Tao. It depends on what you choose. Don't underestimate Uncle Kong. Although he's chubby, he's quite skilled at killing desolate beasts. His favorite thing is to throw various desolate beasts into his large cauldron and then think about how to cook them tastily. He thinks I fell for his hair. But actually, Chun Xiuqin smiled proudly and said softly, I was conquered by his culinary skills. Hey, women! Kong Xiuwen muttered from the side. Chan Xiuqin, annoyed, flicked the forehead of her son. You have objections? Believe it or not, I'll shave your head. Shave it. Just shave. Shave it to death. Kong Xiuwen stretched his neck and said, in the future, he won't need his mom to do it, he'll be bald himself. Xiang Beifei continued to check the system interface. Chan Xiuqin's system interface showed that she had several very powerful abilities, such as precarious. If her 1,000 June scissors touched someone, each strand of their hair would become immensely heavy. Of course, this 1,000 June was just a metaphor. The actual weight a strand of hair could change into was linked to one's strength. However, it was undeniable that if the hair of a desolate beast became heavy, its movements would be severely limited. Another ability, Medusa, could turn her hair into snakes. Anyone bitten by the snakes would be petrified. Xiang Beifei realized he had underestimated Chun Xiuqin, the hairdresser. He asked, Auntie, you used to be a pioneer, so do you also know about my parents' situation? What exactly happened to them? Chun Xiuqin paused, then frowned and after a long while, shook her head and said, I don't know. Xiang Beifei always felt that Chun Xiuqin was hiding something. He checked the system task list, but unfortunately, there was no related hint in Chen Xiuqin's system tasks. During the celebration banquet, Kong Daming and Chan Xiuqin warmly welcomed Xiang Qingde and his grandson. Xiang Qingde, having been very worried about Xiang Beifei these past days, finally relaxed, and without reservation, drank with Kong Daming. Xiang Qingde seldom drank alcohol because it was a substantial expense. He was used to economizing, and only drank a little when Kong Daming occasionally brought him a few bottles, but he never drank to the point of affecting his work the next day. Uncle, Xiaofei is also going to university now. How much money can you earn by selling vegetables every day? If he passes the assessment at Liangzhou University, the tuition and expenses will be a huge sum. You need to change your job. What if you come work at my shop? I'm short on staff anyway, and I'd like to hire you, Kong Daming said. Kong Daming had always intended to help the grandfather-grandson duo for free, but Xiang Qingde, accustomed to earning his own way, refused the charity. Not to hurt Xiang Qingde's pride, Kong Daming had previously proposed hiring him. It was both a matter of fellowship and to help take care of the old man since he was getting on in years and could have an accident where he would need assistance. However, Xiang Qingde knew that working for Kong Daming would be no different from loafing around like the old men who wandered about, so he never agreed to it. But now Xiang Qingde had to seriously consider Kong Daming's words. If his grandson were going to university, the money he saved from selling vegetables wouldn't be enough. Of course, there was some compensation money at home that could temporarily cover some expenses, but money, if not earned, would eventually run out. Right, Uncle Xiang, you wake up early and stay out late every day, earning so little while suffering so much. Coming here to help would be better. Daming's business has been quite busy lately. Xiaofei, you should also persuade your grandfather, Chun Xiuqin said. Grandpa, I think it's a good idea. Xiang Beifei, too, didn't like to see his grandfather selling vegetables at the market every day. Not only enduring hardships but also earning very little. He had been looking for stable ways to make money, trying to get his grandfather to retire early. If his grandfather could work here, with Uncle Kong looking after him, Xiang Beifei would feel more at ease. Xiang Qingde thought for a long time, then said seriously to Kong Daming, Then you have to let me work. All right. As long as you come, you can pick any job in the shop, Kong Daming said with a laugh. Xiang Beifei was eating and simultaneously checking Kong Daming's system. Kong Daming also had a very special ability. He owned a cauldron, named the Gluttonous Cauldron, specifically used for devouring desolate beasts. Another ability, called Samadhi Fire, though not the legendary Samadhi True Fire, possessed a powerful burning capability. When incinerating a desolate beast, it could even roast the meat of the beast into 3 different flavors out of thin air. Human flavor, spicy hot flavor, 5-spice flavor. Xiang Beifei remembered Kong Daming and Chen Shuqin, but it was only today that he had actually met these two in this world and witnessed their systems. He had been browsing through Kong Daming's system, and given enough time, Xiang Beifei could even flip back to the day when the system first awakened. In recent years, Kong Daming's system tasks were almost all related to ingredients. His system points were related to feedback from diners. Creating an excellent dish or killing a desolate beast could also earn him system points. He continued flipping and then came across several task logs. July 16, 3026, with the assistance of Xiang Tianxing, you killed the desolate beast Dang Kong. You obtained Dang Kong meat, gluttony value plus 2,369. July 16, 3026, you abandoned the mission in the northern district of the Essential Domain. July 29, 3026, you spent 1,600 gluttony points to purchase a Heaven-Sniffing Hound Beast Pill. August 2, 3026, the Heaven-Sniffing Hound Beast Pill expired. Xiang Tianxing not found. August 2, 3026, you spent 1,600 gluttony points to purchase a Heaven-Sniffing Hound Beast Pill. August 6, 3026, the Heaven-Sniffing Hound Beast Pill expired. Xiang Tianxing not found. Xiang Beifei was somewhat surprised. 3026, that was 4 years ago, and also the time when his parents disappeared. He continued to scroll through Kong Daming's task logs, and for over a month, Kong Daming kept spending various gluttony values, totaling roughly 20,000, to purchase Heaven-Sniffing Hound Beast Pills, but always failing to find Xiang Tianxing. Northern District of the Essential Domain? Xiang Beifei pondered. In high school's comprehensive system subject, he had already basically learned about the structure of this world. If the domain outside the wilderness was likened to a vast and boundless ocean, the area where humans resided was like an isolated island in the ocean. To determine the danger level of the wilderness outside the domain, humans divided the wilderness into 5 areas, called 5 domains. The circle nearest to the outer perimeter of human territory, where the desolate beasts are relatively weaker, or to say the powerful desolate beasts have already been hunted down and cannot cause much impact on human cities, is called the cultivated domain. The next few circles outward are the marquee domain, tranquil domain, essential domain, and wild domain. The division of the 5 domains is actually similar to the concept of 5 servitudes. As recorded in the Han Shu, Yu the Great tamed the waters, and once the land was leveled, he reformed Zhuzhou, established the 5 servitudes, and assigned the lands to pay tribute. The 5 servitudes are, namely, cultivated servitude, marquee servitude, tranquil servitude, essential servitude, and wild servitude. The meaning of the 5 servitudes is that, taking the area where the emperor resides as the center and moving outward, every 500 li is 1 servitude, creating a circle that expands outward, marking 5 different circles, with different regions paying tribute to the emperor in varying amounts. In this world, however, the Zhuzhou Alliance had become the territory of humans, and the 5 servitudes had been redefined as the 5 domains outside the domain. The further one travels outward, the stronger the desolate beasts in the wilderness become, and the higher the danger level. The cultivated domain is the first level, considered the least dangerous wilderness region, while the 5th level, the wild domain, is the most dangerous place, with almost no one daring to venture into that area. According to Kong Daming's records, Xiang Tianxing went to the essential domain, and then there was no news of him, which is the 4th level danger zone, only less dangerous than the wild domain. According to Kong Daming system records, on July 16th, he had killed the desolate beast Dang Kong together with Xiang Beifei's father Xiang Tianxing. But on the same day, he also gave up the mission in the northern mountain district of the essential domain. This suggests that they were supposed to go to the northern mountain district of the essential domain together. But Kong Daming abandoned the mission, while Xiang Tianqing and the others proceeded. About 10 days later, Kong Daming began expending heaven-sniffing hound beast pills to search for Xiang Tianqing, which means that Xiang Tianqing encountered trouble in the northern mountain district of the Essential Domain. Xiang Beifei found few clues in Kong Daming's system, just bits and pieces of information. Both Kong Daming and Chen Xiuqin's systems were clearly not to be underestimated. They definitely had the ability to be pioneers with meridian opening phase strength, and the system abilities they acquired were well suited for dealing with desolate beasts. Yet they chose to abandon this path and pursue the literary Dao, living like ordinary people. Xiang Beifei was very curious about the reason for their decision to give up the mission. Was it because they were tired of the dangers pioneers had to face, or did they think about their son named Kong Shouwen, not wanting him to become an orphan? If it was the latter, why didn't Xiang Beifei's parents learn from them? Xiang Beifei pursed his lips. He didn't want to complain about the parents he had in this world since, strictly speaking, the parents of this world weren't much related to him. People always have their choices. One cannot expect everyone to think the same. However, Xiang Beifei had many memories in his mind that didn't belong to him. The scene of that teenager 4 years ago, locking himself in his room and weeping under the covers, was still vivid in his mind. After his parents' disappearance, that 14-year-old boy stood by the bedroom window every day, watching the path home. Watching people come and go, watching parents hold their children's hands, watching the smiles on their faces, watching the parents' laughter playing with their children. The teenager silently observed all of this, envying, resenting, being jealous, yearning, and then continued to watch the end of that path. How many times he thought he saw those familiar two people returning hand in hand, hope flaring in his heart. But as many times hope was born, disappointment returned just as many times. The teenager's parents often came home at night, so he slept during the day in class, and then stood by the bedroom window every night to keep watch. Standing there, guarding the road of return until midnight, until dawn. He kept watch for 4 years. Then one day, when taking the comprehensive examination in the examination hall, the teenager saw questions about pioneers in the wild domain, read about the SR system. The emotions suppressed for 4 years suddenly made him break down. He lay down and never woke up again. The one who woke up was Xiang Beifei, who had transmigrated. "You really want to find them, don't you?" Xiang Beifei silently asked himself. The teenager who had been watching might no longer be able to hear him speak, or perhaps he had already become that watching teenager. Xiang Beifei didn't know. All he knew was that he needed to do something. A strange feeling. Even though he had no real interaction, there were countless ties that bound them. If only Xiang Tianqing and his wife had made the right choice just once, remembered they had an underage child at home, remembered there was an elderly father waiting for them, chosen to return home, to retreat from their adventures like Kong Daming and his wife did, to go back and take care of their own child and the aging father, just one right choice. Perhaps there would not be the current transmigrated Xiang Beifei. If I have the ability in the future, I should investigate this matter, Xiang Beifei thought. Since he had become that watching teenager, he needed to fulfill some wishes. After the banquet, Xiang Qingde insisted on cleaning up the bowls and dishes, saying that if he was to work here, then he should start now. Chen Xiuqin had no choice but to clean up with him. Xiang Beifei also lent a hand on the side, and, taking advantage of a moment when no one was around, he asked the slightly intoxicated Kong Daming, "Uncle Kong, I heard that you were once a pioneer as well. Can you tell me about my parents?" Xiang Beifei inquired. Kong Daming's face was flushed with a rosy glow because his own son had achieved satisfactory results, and he was very happy. He didn't think too much about it and replied, "Your parents, they were two remarkable individuals. They were much stronger than Xiuqin and me, with strong comprehensive abilities, top-notch in every aspect. They were the true elites among pioneers. If they really were elites, they should have been able to come home to take care of their child whenever, just like Uncle Kong," Xiang Beifei said. Hearing Xiang Beifei's words, Kong Daming stretched out his broad palm and patted Xiang Beifei's shoulder, consoling him. Being a pioneer is naturally accompanied by constant danger. Those in this line of work all understand this. No one knows whether they will see the sun tomorrow, but everyone strives their best. Then why don't you continue being a pioneer, Uncle Kong? Kong Daming said, I was injured on a mission once, and it had a big impact on me, so I retired. Was it related to my dad? Xiang Beifei asked. That?
Kong Daming hésita-t-elle.
What place is the northern district of the essential domain? Xiang Beifei then asked. Kong Daming was startled by the question, sobering up significantly. He looked at Xiang Beifei with a mix of alarm and suspicion, asking, Why are you suddenly asking about this? I'm of age now, and I'll try to find some answers, Xiang Beifei said. Kong Daming asked in surprise, Who have you been talking to about this? I'm their son. They left a lot of things behind, and there are always some clues around the house, Xiang Beifei said. Kong Daming murmured to himself, You've actually managed to find out about this. After a long pause, he continued uneasily, I can't disclose this matter. Why? I've come of age. I should be able to learn about the things I need to know. Xiang Beifei paused, then continued, To understand my own parents. Kong Daming sighed, It's not that I don't want to tell you, but I'm under confidentiality. Your academic studies are very good, so you should understand that the system has restraints. If I chose to retire, then my work must be kept secret. Xiang Beifei vaguely understood. Being a pioneer is a noble profession. Thus, within this profession, there must be awakeners with formidable abilities. Kong Daming was an S-level awakener. If there were some SR-level individuals compelling him to maintain secrecy, then he would have no choice but to keep silent. Xiang Beifei didn't ask any further. He understood the system better than anyone else, and if Kong Daming couldn't say it, there was no point in continuing to ask. Thank you for the hospitality tonight, Uncle Kong. I'll entrust Grandpa to Uncle Kong's care from now on, Xiang Beifei said politely. Of course. But you? Kong Daming still had some worries about Xiang Beifei. Don't worry, Uncle Kong. I won't recklessly go looking for them without the strength, Xiang Beifei said. Kong Daming was taken aback, and couldn't help but size up Xiang Beifei. The boy seemed to have grown a lot, even to the point where he was incomprehensible to him. Compared to the child from 4 years ago, he had undergone an earth-shattering transformation. Was he really Xiang Tianxing's son? His character was composed, unruffled. Could it be the result of awakening a system talent? Kong Daming could only attribute Xiang Beifei's changes to this reason. Many people become different after awakening their systems, perhaps aided by the system itself. Maybe this child was the same. Could he really have just awakened an N-tier system? Now, Kong Daming was not so sure. The college application process was next week, and Xiang Beifei had already determined his target, so he did not need to worry about selecting a school. In the 2 days after the results came out, he continued to practice his cultivation. Xiang Qingde was persuaded by Kong Daming to work at the restaurant, finally not needing to wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning anymore. The restaurant work didn't start that early. He could go after 9 in the morning. Of course, Kong Daming would not let the old man do any heavy labor. Instead, he let the old man wander around the restaurant, ostensibly as a sitting manager, responsible for supervising the staff and handling some matters. But Xiang Qingde took any job seriously. Kong Daming paid him a good wage, and he believed he needed to earn this pay, not wanting to live on charity, so he would personally take on even minor tasks like mopping the floor. Even so, Xiang Qingde's job at the restaurant was much easier than selling vegetables. He no longer had to endure the market supervisor Ma Dongxiang's oppressive presence or put up with some people's attitudes. Since Kong Daming, the owner and head chef, had given the word, none of the restaurant staff dared to disrespect the old man. They all treated him with the utmost reverence. With Grandpa having switched to an easier job, Xiang Beifei felt more at ease. When it was time for him to go to university and not be at home, with Kong Daming's help to look after things, he wouldn't have to worry too much. However, the calm days did not last long. Yulei still managed to push Xiang Beifei's story to the top of the trending searches. It was Kong Shouwen who first discovered it online, especially sending him a post to look at. The tale behind a 732-point student from the slums who declined an elite university is unexpectedly heartbreaking. Yulei posted the article on his social media account, which stated, "The college entrance exam results have been released, eliciting mixed feelings of joy and sorrow." According to the Jojo Education Alliance, out of over 5 million candidates this year, a total of 121 scored above 700 points. Among these individuals, one candidate's score is notably unique. His name is Xiang Beifei, who scored 732 points. This score might seem insignificant compared to Jojo's top scorer Xia Hongtao's 761 points. After all, there are 74 other candidates with scores higher than 732. But if we say that 732 points was Xiang Beifei's raw score, it becomes extraordinary. Even Jojo's top scorer Xia Hongtao only had a raw score of 711. His elevation to top rank came with an S-tier system bonus of 50 points. As for Xiang Beifei, he scored 732 points as an N-tier awakener without any bonus points, making him first in raw score. It's hard to imagine that this year's highest raw scorer in academic subjects is an N-tier awakener. When I went to interview Xiang Beifei, the sky was overcast, mirroring the heavy mood of that young man. Entering a dirty and narrow alley, I was faced with a stinking pile of garbage. This alleyway has not been cleaned all year, with trash haphazardly dumped, flies buzzing everywhere, and living conditions severe. Accompanied by a photo of the garbage heap. Opposite this garbage heap stood a residential building with peeling, slightly cracked walls and a jumble of electrical wires. A gray, oppressive sky loomed over the building, enveloping it with an indescribable sense of oppression. I was shocked to find that the candidate with the highest raw score lived in such filthy and chaotic conditions. I rang the doorbell, and it was Xiang Beifei who answered the door. His awkward eyes were filled with confusion, but after I explained my purpose, he hurriedly welcomed me into the house. The room was dimly lit, and I could smell a strong scent of medicine, accompanied by the heavy coughing of an elderly man. Upon asking, I learned that Xiang Beifei was preparing medicine for his grandfather, who suffered from severe chronic asthma. His condition had flared up in recent days, causing intense coughing fits. I asked him why he hadn't gone to the hospital. He replied, "We don't have the money." Upon hearing this, my heart felt heavy. In this day and age of rapidly advancing technology, asthma has long been conquered, and yet some people still suffer from it due to poverty. It turns out a speck of dust in the era of systems is a mountain on the shoulders of a level N awakener. The room was very cramped, with several big, bulging sacks piled up in a corner. After entering, the room felt even more crowded, leaving hardly any space to move around. Insert image of overcrowding. Xiang Beifei apologetically brought me a chair. I asked if I could interview him, and he was shy in front of the camera, stating he didn't want his face to be shown. I respected his choice and didn't post his photograph. During our conversation, I learned that his parents had died when he was very young, and he had been living with his grandfather ever since. His grandfather supported his schooling by collecting recyclables. Only then did I realize that the sacks in the corner were filled with plastic bottles. I asked him what his plans for the future were, given his high test scores. He said he planned to attend an ordinary university and then earn money to treat his grandfather's illness. What about Liangzhou University? It's the only one of the 9 elite universities that recruits level N students. Won't you give it a try? I asked further. He shook his head, saying he wouldn't go. A vocational college had already contacted him. If he could attend, he would be exempt from tuition fees and also receive a subsidy. He wanted to use that money for his grandfather's medical treatment. Attending Liangzhou University was almost an impossibility for a level N candidate, and even if admitted, the expenses would be enormous, which he couldn't afford. I sighed inwardly. The child was very sensible. Reality was very cruel. I couldn't help but wonder, what's wrong with our Jojo Alliance? Why has a high-scoring student fallen to such a state? Why don't the 9 elite universities recruit level N students, forcing a bright and high-scoring student to opt for a vocational college? A vocational student with 732 points must be the most ironic thing in this era of systems. When every one of us lives with the help of the system, everything seems to be taken for granted. But as the era of systems hastily marches forward, who really has the time to stop and consider these issues? If this had happened to me, I probably would have handled it worse than him. I also asked about his aspirations for the future, and he told me he wanted to become a doctor and cure his grandfather's illness. His simple wish was inexplicably heart-wrenching. Before leaving, I told him I knew a specialist at a hospital and would recommend him for his grandfather's treatment. He hesitated, so I made it clear that it was free, the specialist would help for free. Only then did a relieved smile spread across the child's young face. That smile lit up the dim room and rekindled hope in the family. I distinctly saw the future in Xiang Beifei's eyes, bright and dazzling. It was his tomorrow. When his grandfather heard about this, he made an effort to get up from the bed despite his illness to thank me profusely. I quickly waved my hands and said, "No need. No need. I'm just doing what I can." Seeing the excited grandfather and grandson, I felt terribly uncomfortable. All I could do was to help cover their medical costs. The grateful pair saw me to the door, and in the moment before it closed, I couldn't hold back anymore and tears fell from my eyes. I am not a level N awakener, but at that moment I felt no different from one. May all the kind people in the world be treated with gentleness. Xiang Beifei read the article with astonishment. Sincere and touching, it resonated deeply. The article was grounded, with every word striking a chord. If he weren't the person involved, he might have believed it himself. Yulei was very skilled at writing such pieces, adept at using pitiful tales to garner sympathy, casting Xiang Beifei and his grandfather as if they were nearly too poor to eat. Not one of the incidents mentioned in the article was true. They were all fabrications by Yulei. To be clear, Xiang Qingde took life seriously, and though he lived in poverty, he kept the home tidy and clean, and was in good health. The garbage piles in the street outside simply didn't exist. The street cleaners came to clean up on time every day. On the day Yulei came, Xiang Beifei didn't even go out to meet him, not exchanging a single word with him. However, the article portrayed him as a youth with eyes filled with hope. Start with 2 pictures and the rest was pure fabrications. And the pictures were forged. The guy crafted them with finesse, depicting Xiang Beifei as a green youth struggling to survive in the cracks of life, Xiang Qingde as an elderly man confined to his bed, and himself, Yulei, as a conscience-driven media person with a sense of justice and responsibility who dared to expose unfairness. Once the article was published on various media platforms, it instantly caused a sensation. Many people kept sharing it, bombarding friends and family group chats, with parents using the story to lecture their underachieving children, expressing sentiments like, "the other family's child," followed by a smiling emoticon. As more people saw it, the discussions grew, and in just half a day's time, it unexpectedly shot into the top 10 trending searches. By doing so, the task set by Yulei's system was sure to be completed. I really underestimated this guy. Xiang Beifei hadn't expected Yulei to spread rumors so blatantly. To gain attention, increase traffic, and complete his system task. The most astonishing part was the people commenting under Yulei's article, all expressing pity for Xiang Beifei. Then there were those inquiring about his contact details through Yulei, saying they wanted to visit, donate money to Xiang Beifei, and offer a helping hand. Then, even more shameless, Yulei left a donation account number, claiming he would pass on the contributions. There were probably heaps of donors, and that money was likely to end up entirely in Yulei's own pockets. Xiang Beifei, whom did you give an interview to? Kong Xiuan made a special trip to Xiang Beifei's house to ask. I didn't. This article, not even the punctuation can be trusted. Nothing in it is true, said Xiang Beifei. Frowning, Kong Xiuan said, I knew it. It's complete nonsense. Look, he's released another video. An interview about teacher Yang Hua. Kong Xiuan played the video on his phone, and on the screen Yang Hua was enthusiastically saying, Yes, Xiang Beifei, this student, I had high hopes for him from the start. His academic performance wasn't great in the beginning, But I always encouraged him, told him not to get discouraged, helped him identify and fill in his gaps, and he improved rapidly. You could say, the high scores he achieved today are the result of our joint efforts. This was shot a few days ago after the results came out, with teacher Yang Hua elevating himself to a very high pedestal in front of the camera. How can he have the face to say that? Kong Xiuwen rolled his eyes. Let him talk, Xiang Beifei said. He turned to look at Xiaohe, who was playing with a red pill. That was Yang Hua's qi and blood pill. There are many educators who truly consider the students' interests, and Principal Li Nanxing is a prime example. He doesn't take credit for others' work, nor does he attribute Xiang Beifei's achievements to himself. On the contrary, he generously admits his misjudgment and conducts himself with openness. His Confucian Saint system gains prestige through genuinely cultivating students, and Xiang Beifei greatly respects such a teacher and senior. He wishes for more educators like Principal Li Nanxing in the world, so that more students can benefit. If he could help Principal Li Nanxing gain more prestige, Xiang Beifei would be happy to do so. The teachers of Xiang Beifei's other subjects are also acceptable. They don't intentionally trouble the students or belittle and mock them. However, in any profession, there will always be some rotten apples like Yang Hua. But this doesn't matter, for the kind are always treated with kindness, and the deceivers are always abandoned. Xiang Beifei understands this principle. Kong Xiuwen on the side felt indignant for Xiang Beifei, saying irritably, "Those two guys, even my dad can't hoodwink people better than them. What did your dad hoodwink you with?" Before the last awakening ceremony, my dad gave me 2 pills and said that eating one would give me a 50% chance of awakening an SR system, and 2 would guarantee it. I actually believed him. Only today, during his conversation with Grandpa Xiang, did I realize he was joking with me, just to keep my mind clear during the awakening ceremony. At the time, Kong Xiuwen had even thought about giving one of the pills to Xiang Beifei. "You're just realizing this now?" Xiang Beifei laughed. He remembered this incident clearly. After all, Kong Daming was an S-rank pioneer and certainly knew better what the awakening system was all about. Pills were useless. Speaking of my grandfather, Xiang Beifei glanced at the report and fell into thought. Yang Hua was about to go insane. He had painstakingly saved up 150,000 teachers' prestige value and exchanged it for a qi and blood pill, only to have it vanish into thin air, just like the last soul-condensing pill. How could this happen? Yang Hua thought about it for 2 days and still could not figure it out. He kept asking the system if there was a glitch, but the system's response was consistent from start to end. System reward issued. Through his students' college entrance examination scores, he had finally saved up enough teacher prestige value, only for such bizarre incidents to happen twice in a row. No, it can't be a problem with my system. It's very likely that someone has tampered with it behind my back. After calming down, Yang Hua began to recall the entire incident. He wasn't like Xu Jing, someone who had just awakened their system and wasn't familiar with it, someone who wouldn't think too much if something went missing. He had been an awakened system user for over a decade. There were common elements, or rather common people, involved in both cases where the system rewards disappeared without a trace. He played with his phone in frustration, and at that moment an article on the phone caught his attention. 732-point candidate from the slums forsakes elite university, the heartbreaking truth behind it. He casually clicked on the article and read about Xiang Beifei. A flash of insight crossed his mind. So it was you. Yang Hua suddenly understood who was most likely taking his rewards. Yu Lei, Yang Hua said through gritted teeth. He clearly remembered that it was the day the senior students were preparing for the awakening ceremony when he exchanged for the soul-condensing pill. That morning, he had been interviewed by Yu Lei, who was there to report on the news. Afterwards, the soul-condensing pills disappeared. Then, when the college entrance examination results were announced, he was ready to exchange for a qi and blood pill, but that guy Yu Lei appeared again. He interviewed him once more. After the interview, he went to exchange for the qi and blood pill, and it disappeared again. You bastard! So the interviews were just a ruse to mess with me and steal my system rewards using some trick. Anger flashed in Yang Hua's eyes. The more he thought about it, the more he believed he was correct. Apart from Yulei, nobody else had the capability. Because none of the other students in the class, whom he often scolded, had ever encountered such incidents before. What's more, when the soul-condensing pills went missing, none of the students had awakened their systems, so it couldn't have been one of his own students. But it just so happened that Yulei was the one who interviewed him both times. Could there be something fishy about that interview microphone? Damn it! In the elegant coffee shop, soft lighting bathed Yulei in a peaceful glow. Yulei was leisurely sitting back, sipping coffee and reading an article on his computer. The interview article had firmly hit the hot search lists of 3 platforms, reaching the 10th position in popularity. Just reaching the top 20 in hot searches on one platform was enough to complete a system task and add 1,000 points to his system value. The hyped article hitting the hot search listing on 3 platforms was equivalent to completing 3 system tasks. Since the tasks were cumulative, it meant an addition of 3,000 points to his system value. At this rate, reaching the number 1 spot on the hot search list is completely attainable. Yulei put down his coffee cup, increasingly excited. His system was named, I Want to Make Headlines, and if he could get to the top of the hot search list and become the leading story, it would be more than just completing a task. It would add at least 10,000 system points. I knew it. Many people love this type of news. Yulei typed away proudly, then turned to look out the window. Across from the coffee shop was a restaurant named Kong's Mansion Banquet, where an elderly man could be seen bustling about, attending to customers. That was Xiang Qingde, the bedridden old man from his article. Yulei knew exactly what he had to do next. Now that the article was out, many people were aware of the story of the Xiang grandfather and grandson. Quite a few sympathized with them, leaving messages saying they wanted to visit. If those busybodies were to come, it would mean that the content of his article would be exposed. Yulei couldn't let those people discover the truth. Having fabricated the news, he naturally had to make it seem even more plausible. So, the next step was naturally to take action against Xiang Qingde and Xiang Beifei. He looked at his system interface. Hitting the hot search list on 3 platforms was equivalent to completing 3 system tasks. Each completion granted him a choice of 2 system rewards: Stealth Talisman, Truth-Telling Talisman, Control Talisman, Memory Talisman. Choose any 2. You grandfather and grandson had better cooperate obediently with my performance. Yulei chuckled to himself. He had already planned it out. First, use the Control Talisman to make Xiang Qingde and Xiang Beifei obey his every command. Then he'd use the Memory Talisman to alter their memories, making them believe they were the 2 individuals from his article, living off picking through trash with a chaotic home life and having them refuse interviews from other media. Finally, he would arrange for Xiang Beifei to enroll in a vocational college that he had already contacted. Yulei had to force Xiang Beifei to apply for a specialized college. Only then could he stir up a sensation again. He needed to control Xiang Qingde and his grandson to act in a way that conformed to his article, thereby strengthening its persuasive power and also to avoid being arrested by law enforcement for spreading rumors. As for whether elite universities would actually make an exception to admit Xiang Beifei because of his article, he wouldn't be at a loss. If they made an exception, that would be best. If the 9 elite universities changed their system because of his article towards Xiang Beifei, everyone would remember Yulei, the media person with responsibility, attitude, and justice. His reputation would be made, his influence would grow, and he could aggressively harvest marketing traffic. If the elite universities did not respond, then as the matter fermented further, netizens would direct their anger toward the 9 elite universities, flooding their official accounts with posts, and then they would demand Yulei to represent them. As long as he continued to defend Xiang Beifei daily on media platforms, vehemently criticizing the elite universities, he would surely garner immense support from countless netizens. Yulei was preparing for the second scenario. He knew that netizens loved to defend the underdog. If elite universities yielded, the heat would fade in a couple of days. But the longer the elite universities held out, the longer the hype would last, the more attention he would receive, and the more system tasks he could complete. Being on the headlines would not only boost his fame but also attract massive traffic to his media account. With his popularity at its peak, advertisers would be eager to place ads on his account. To achieve this, Yu Lei had to firmly control Xiang Beifei and his grandfather, puppeteering them at his will. Only he could decide where Xiang Beifei could go to school. In order to extract more benefits from Xiang Beifei, the top N-grade novice scholar, even if elite universities were pressured by public opinion to accept him, he would force Xiang Beifei to refuse the invitation. Thus, he must subdue Xiang Qingde and his grandson today, turning them into his puppets with a control talisman. Yu Lei was adept at this kind of manipulation, relying on the system's help. He had fabricated countless pieces of news, and to headline and complete system tasks, he was prepared to be utterly unscrupulous. Xiang Qingde was still working at the restaurant, so Yu Lei couldn't act immediately. To avoid attracting attention, he had to wait for a moment when no one was around, so he began browsing online posts right away. The number of online posts had been increasing, evolving just as he had anticipated over the past few days. Yesterday, he posted a Weibo, tagging the 9 elite universities, reaching 6 million views, garnering 30,000 reposts, 20,000 comments, and 60,000 likes. Such popularity was incredibly high. At this moment, Liangzhou University, the only one admitting N-grade awakeners, spoke out on their media platform. We welcome any student to apply to Liangzhou University, and the school treats all students equally. However, the reason why we have an additional assessment for N-grade students is to ensure that their system capabilities can keep up with the intense curriculum of the school. This is a mandatory rule. Yu Lei seized the opportunity and immediately posted a Weibo. This so-called equality is laughable. We all live in the Zhuzhou Union, so why discriminate against N-grade students? Just like anyone else, N-grade awakeners can also contribute to the union. This post instantly resonated with countless N-grade awakeners. N-grade awakeners are the most common and most looked down upon in this world. Finally, someone spoke up for them, and they saw a glimmer of hope. Countless N-grade awakeners flocked to the official account of Liangzhou University. Beginning to flood it with N-grade awakeners can also contribute to the union. All kinds of insults and private messages overwhelmed Liangzhou University's official account, pushing it into the eye of the storm, forcing the institution to shut down comments and private messaging. This further enraged the netizens, so they turned to posting on Yu Lei's account instead. The readership of Yu Lei's fabricated articles moved up a notch, and his headline value was skyrocketing. That's right, just follow my lead and charge. Yu Lei was feeling very proud, as he could easily lead everyone by the nose with just one fabricated article, while he browsed through his own comment section. Yu Lei is a conscientious media person. Nowadays, there are few who speak out for us N-level awakeners. Support Yu Lei. Eliminate discrimination against N-level awakeners. Countless N-level awakeners gathered in Yu Lei's comment section, treating him as the vanguard for their rights. Hee, you bunch of N-level fools. Really think I'm voicing for you? Yu Lei smirked as he looked at his system interface. The news had successfully reached 4th place on the trending search list. Reward, plus 5,000 headline value. Everyone in the world acts with their own interests in mind. He wasn't really speaking for the N-level awakeners. He was doing it for his system tasks. These N-level trash aren't completely useless after all. Yu Lei's eyes lit up. 5,000 headline value, that was a big gain. Just then, a comment from a netizen caught his attention. I think it would be more reliable to have Xiang Beifei, the top N-level scorer, speak out. Does he have a personal Weibo account? Right? Nothing works better than the person involved speaking out. Many echoed this sentiment, preparing to seek out Xiang Beifei's Weibo account and have him represent the N-level system awakeners. Yu Lei frowned. He wasn't sure if Xiang Beifei used Weibo, but as a marketing account, he quickly saw a bigger opportunity for sensationalism in this situation. In his view, Xiang Beifei indeed needed an account, and this account had to be under his Yu Lei's control. With just one status update to drive traffic, he could make Xiang Beifei's personal accounts followers skyrocket. Later, by hyping up both accounts and leading these N-level awakeners, using them as pawns, wouldn't his system tasks be completed more effortlessly? No time to delay. Today I must get Xiang Beifei and his grandfather under control, then use Xiang Beifei to register an account. Yu Lei couldn't let the real Xiang Beifei have his say. Given his attitude that day, it was clear he was unwilling to cooperate. If the real Xiang Beifei came forward to speak, denying the interview Yu Lei had fabricated, that would spell trouble. Fortunately, he knew Xiang Beifei was just a high school student. Even if he had an account, it likely wouldn't draw much attention. Even if Xiang Beifei issued a denial today, it would just by controlling that kid today, how the situation would develop from there would still be up to him, wouldn't it? It was already past 10 in the evening, and the restaurant was getting less crowded. Kong Daming had earlier urged Xiang Qingde to head home early, but Xiang Qingde disagreed, insisting on waiting until after work to leave. Then I'll take you home, it's quite late, Kong Daming said. No need, it's only a 10-minute walk. How could I possibly get lost? You go ahead and close up. I've got a flashlight. Xiang Qingde put on his coat, waved at Kong Daming to reassure him, and then left the restaurant. Be careful. Kong Daming thought about the old man's robust health. A 10-minute walk at night should pose no problem, so he didn't think much more about it. Yu Lei, who had been sitting in the cafe all afternoon, noticed Xiang Qingde leaving the restaurant. He quickly packed up his laptop and followed him. In his view, among the grandson and grandfather, Xiang Qingde was the tougher one to deal with. After all, he had been an awakener for decades, definitely more challenging than Xiang Beifei, who had only awakened 2 months ago. Xiang Beifei was merely an N-level awakener, having just awakened for 2 months, not even at the chi-controlling stage. Wouldn't it be effortless to subdue him once Xiang Qingde was under control? He planned to attack Xiang Qingde first in a dark corner, using a control talisman to subdue him, then follow him home to take control of Xiang Beifei and capture both grandfather and grandson. To fabricate the situation described in his article, he even prepared in advance the medicinal pot and the bag for collecting recyclables, ready to mess up their home, making it look exactly as described in his story. Then, I'll register an account overnight, take a photo with them, generate some traffic, then make the old man quit his job and keep him from contacting other media, making him obediently my puppet. Yu Lei had thought through the subsequent steps. He intended to use the grandfather and grandson as tools for making money. By 10:30, there weren't many pedestrians on the street. Xiang Qingde was walking home with his flashlight. He turned into a street without streetlights, pitch dark, with the lights from residential buildings failing to reach this side. However, Xiang Qingde was used to it and turned on his flashlight to light up the path ahead. But he didn't notice at all that a figure was stealthily closing in on him from behind. Yu Lei was a practitioner of the literary Tao, but as an R-level system awakener who had groped his way through the journalism industry for many years for the convenience of secretly taking photos, he had developed agile movements with skills reaching the mid-stage of chi-controlling. He had scoped out the area during the day. This part of the street had no surveillance. Xiang Qingde was just an ordinary N-level awakener, not particularly high in skills. He had to make his move on the stretch. Yu Lei had completed 3 system tasks, with the reward being a choice of 2 out of 4, meaning he could select 6 rewards in total. He had already chosen to exchange for 3 memory talismans and 3 control talismans, which, compared to the truth-telling talismans and stealth talismans, were more useful. Old fool. Just be my puppet. Yu Lei gripped a control talisman, then stretched his hand towards Xiang Qingde's back. However, just as his hand was about to touch Xiang Qingde, Yu Lei suddenly felt something was off. It was as if a sinister breeze had blown past, and his just-exchanged control talisman had disappeared. How could this be? Yu Lei's face changed, and he quickly withdrew his hand and dodged to the side. This incident was unexpected. Without the control talisman, directly touching Xiang Qingde would be practically the same as greeting him. Where's my control talisman? Yu Lei stopped next to a tree, looking at his system interface in amazement. He had never encountered anything like this before. Not only that, but the 3 memory talismans and 2 control talismans he had already claimed had also disappeared. In the dead of night, it was like seeing a ghost. Yu Lei searched for his system rewards. He had redeemed this reward 10 minutes ago, and it was still there just now. Why did it disappear all of a sudden the moment he made his move? But by this time, Xiang Qingde had already walked far away. He hadn't been disturbed by Yulei, so he continued walking forward, quickly turning around the street corner and disappearing. Damn it! Yulei gritted his teeth. His system was acting up for some unknown reason, mysteriously making his rewards disappear. But he knew now was not the time to fret about the system glitching, but to deal with Xiang Qingde. With the advanced network technology, finding a person wasn't too difficult. Maybe as soon as tomorrow, someone could find Luhe High School and ask the school's teachers about Xiang Beifei's address. If they were to find out that situation at Xiang Qingde's home was different from what his article described, he would be in loads of trouble. I can't wait any longer. Yulei decided to deal with Xiang Qingde first and then consider the issue of the missing system reward. He immediately spent 1,000 headline points and redeemed another control talisman. Besides being a mission completion reward, the control talisman could also be exchanged in the shop using system points. But now, that article had garnered a massive readership, earning him far more than 1,000 headline points. Yulei, holding the control talisman, continued to pursue Xiang Qingde. However, he hadn't traveled far when suddenly a furious gust of punches erupted from the side. Bang! The fist wind created a spark in the air, the exploding flames roaring loudly, and with incredible swiftness, it smashed towards Yulei's face. Yulei was startled by the abrupt fist wind and didn't react in time. With a thud, he was directly struck in the bridge of his nose, the tremendous impact sending him flying. Ah! He let out a scream, his body hitting the wall like a sandbag. Yulei was merely a practitioner of the literary Dao, not very adept at fighting. Caught unguarded, he took a solid punch to the nose, breaking it and immediately causing blood to flow. Damn! Who ambushed me? But, being a mid-stage chi-controlling awakener, he was used to dealing with stealthy situations and reacted very quickly. After his nose was broken, he quickly snapped back to his senses. A gray light flashed over his body, and he transformed into black smoke, disappearing from beneath the attacker's fist. Stealth talisman. He had plenty of such items on him, capable of melding himself with the darkness, transforming into black smoke, escaping, and enabling him to remain invisible in various corners. This was an essential skill for paparazzi and also his most proficient ability. Who are you? Yulei, hidden in the darkness, glared angrily at the person who had suddenly attacked him. The person was dressed in black and also wore a hat, standing in the darkness just like him. It was impossible to see the attacker's face clearly, but Yulei felt an immense pressure. The opponent's fist wind was too domineering, something he couldn't resist. The one who made a move was Xiang Beifei, but he would not explain to Yulei. Yulei was, after all, in the middle stage of chi-controlling, the same realm as himself. Even if Yulei was not good at fighting, Xiang Beifei would not underestimate him. Without saying another word, he rushed at Yulei again. Although Yulei had a stealth talisman and had hidden his body, invisible in the dark, to Xiang Beifei it made no difference whether he was concealed or not. The system interface sparkled, serving as a guiding light. Boom! A fist wind smashed down toward the place where Yulei was hiding, and Yulei was terrified. How could you? Yulei did not understand how his position had been exposed. Although not skilled in combat, he was very good at concealing himself, always able to follow others without being discovered. But somehow, the guy in the darkness had accurately found him. However, the current scene did not allow Yulei to think too much. He surged forward again, and at the same time, a dagger for self-defense appeared in his hand and he stabbed at Xiang Beifei. Even though he was a practitioner of the literary Dao in this system world, he still learned some abilities to protect himself with the help of the system. The dagger was very sharp, easily picking locks and getting past doors. It was naturally more than enough for stabbing people. In the cover of darkness, the dagger silently moved towards Xiang Beifei's chest. Xiang Beifei controlled the breath soil, which interweaved in his hands to form a small shield, blocking the dagger and knocking it out of the way. Damn it! Yulei took a step back angrily, then bitterly said, "You think knocking my dagger away is the end of it? With a thought, the dagger that was knocked away traced an arc in the air, making a devious curve, and stabbed at Xiang Beifei's back. D. Yu Lei shouted furiously. However, as the dagger flew through the air, it suddenly seemed to have been forcibly pulled by something, halting so abruptly it could not advance another inch. Abruptly stop. Using this ability, Xiang Beifei froze Yu Lei's dagger in place, then dashed forward, landing a punch on Yu Lei's face. Yu Lei did not dodge this time and was smashed against the wall. But before he could get up, gigantic fists pummeled down on him like hail, striking him all over. Bang! 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 In just an instant, Yu Lei was beaten to a bloody pulp, screaming miserably. Then his eyes rolled back, and he fainted. Both were in the middle stage of chi controlling, yet Yu Lei stood no chance against Xiang Beifei. Ever since Yu Lei's article hit the trending searches, Xiang Beifei had anticipated that this guy would definitely come for them. He had previously seen his system task and knew that Yu Lei had a control talisman. Since he succeeded in getting the article trending, for the sake of damage control, Yu Lei would certainly try to control both the grandfather and the grandson. So from the afternoon, Xiang Beifei had been waiting not far from the restaurant, watching over Grandpa in the diner, and after Grandpa finished work, he followed behind. Sure enough, as expected, Yu Lei was prepared to control Xiang Qingde from behind. Some people are not for you to touch. Xiang Beifei looked indifferently at Yu Lei, who had been knocked unconscious. Bang! He smashed another punch down. This punch was struck for Grandpa. Daring to have designs on his grandpa, Xiang Beifei would show no mercy. He was not in the mood to reason with the opponent. Beat him up first, then talk. Bang! He raised his hand and punched Yu Lei in the face again. This punch was to knock him out completely, ensuring that he wasn't feigning unconsciousness. After Lai Wuying had pretended to be defeated, and then suddenly launched a vicious attack that nearly killed Lu Hong, Xiang Beifei realized that such matters required decisive action. Using my name to set up a personal account and collaborating with you to sensationalize it? You're quite the cunning one, he said. Xiang Beifei looked at Yu Lei's system tasks, where the others' plans were laid out on the system interface for all to see, including the completion conditions and rewards for each step, all crystal clear. The more Xiang Beifei looked at these system tasks, the deeper his frown became. This guy was so shameless for the sake of making headlines, even planning on controlling his grandfather like a puppet, which was something Xiang Beifei absolutely couldn't tolerate. Originally, when Xiang Beifei saw the fabricated article, he thought he could also create an account to clear the air, exposing Yu Lei's conspiracy and turning netizens against him instead. But after some thought, Xiang Beifei realized he might not be able to outsmart Yu Lei with just a simple online clarification. Yu Lei was a seasoned media professional with a deeper understanding of the internet than him. So Xiang Beifei decided to take a more straightforward approach. His time was precious, and he had no interest in a battle of wits with someone like Yu Lei. A direct confrontation would suffice. Xiang Beifei then took out the control talisman in his hand. Elixirs produced by other people's systems that could directly advance one's cultivation were ineffective on Xiang Beifei, but the effects of a control talisman could still be employed. However, this was a chi-controlling mid-stage system item, belonging to the things condensed by Yu Lei's system. If Xiang Beifei used it directly, it would be difficult to control Yu Lei because Yu Lei's headline system would protect him. Xiaohe had told him that to make the control talisman effective on Yu Lei without being rejected by Yu Lei's system, he must first knock Yu Lei out. When he was unconscious, that was when his will was at its weakest, and the control talisman could take effect. Now it's time for us to settle accounts, Xiang Beifei declared. Xiang Beifei affixed the control talisman to Yu Lei's neck. Following Xiaohe's taught method, he infused his spiritual power into the talisman. A flicker of light flashed across the control talisman before sinking into Yu Lei's body and disappearing. Yu Lei soon opened his eyes, his gaze blank, seemingly unaware of where he was. Yu Lei probably never imagined that one day his system items would be used on himself by someone else. "Who are you?" Xiang Beifei inquired. "Yu Lei," he replied. "How many times have you fabricated fake news?" Xiang Beifei asked. "Over 100 times, I guess. I never counted. Yulei responded honestly. You know what the consequences are for creating fake news, right? Xiang Beifei asked. I know. Have you ever caused anyone's death with your fake news? Yes, I've caused the deaths of 9. 3 committed suicide after I fabricated stories that resulted in their job loss, and they couldn't bear the accusations from those around them. And there was 1 person I killed to make up a story. Yulei confessed to all the people he had indirectly or directly caused the death of in order to create fake news. So, if you'd managed to control the grandfather and grandson pair of the original division's top scholars, what was your endgame for them? Xiang Beifei continued. When the hype around the original division's top scholar was about to die down, I planned to control the old man to commit suicide. Then I'd fabricate an article titled Elder with Asma chooses suicide to avoid burdening his top scholar grandson, to sensationalize one last wave of attention. Yulei answered plainly. Bang! Xiang Beifei threw another punch. This punch wasn't for anything in particular. When it's time to hit, just hit. Nothing fancy. If the top scorer's grandfather really committed suicide due to life's pressure, the sensation it would cause would be incredible. All he would need to do is publish an obituary, describing in detail how he blamed himself, how he couldn't better help the grandfather and grandson. Then he would garner the sympathy of countless people. Yulei could even become a celebrity in the media industry because of this incident. And his system income would probably skyrocket, to the point where Xiang Beifei wouldn't be surprised if Yulei reached the Meridian opening realm within a year by harvesting headline values from the system. For the sake of system tasks, he really is unscrupulous. If Xiang Beifei hadn't been cautious from the start, he and his grandfather would have been in a very dire situation after being controlled. The world of the system isn't the same as Xiang Beifei's previous world. They possess powerful system abilities, and their methods are simple yet effective. Should greed take over, the things they're capable of are truly terrifying. Xiang Beifei really wanted to kill this guy. However, after thinking it over, he gave up the idea. Currently, the article about the top scorer from the slums is spreading all over the internet, and Xiang Beifei hasn't debunked it yet. If Yulei were killed, that guy would then be seen by his fans as having been murdered for speaking out of turn. Yulei might even be elevated to a higher status, like someone who died fighting for N-level Awakener rights, or someone who crossed paths with certain vested interests. They might even build monuments in his honor and regard him as a pioneer against N-level discrimination. That would be letting him off far too easily. Xiang Beifei needed to expose this guy's true nature and ensure his utter disgrace. After pondering for a moment, he said, "Write a complete article about all the bad things you've done, the people you've killed, the rumors you've spread, how you fabricated news, your objectives, the methods you used, and any evidence you have, everything from start to finish." Okay. Yulei turned to retrieve his backpack that had fallen to the ground, his computer still inside. But the computer was broken. But as someone with a news system, he was never short of tools for news reporting. Xiang Beifei simply had him use system points to exchange for a new laptop. This laptop, provided by the system and linked to Yulei himself, could quickly compose an article reflecting Yulei's thoughts, an essential tool for writing news stories. And so, Yulei sat by the roadside, beginning to write his confession letter. Xiang Beifei stood by, watching him list all the evidence that could be investigated. The process took about an hour, and people passed by now and then. Xiang Beifei had to use a stealth talisman from Yulei's system to conceal them both in the shadows, preventing them from being seen. Xiang Beifei took out his phone to check the news and inadvertently discovered that the fabricated article by Yulei had unwittingly topped the trending search list. He turned his head towards Yulei's system interface. "You have successfully made the Xiang Beifei incident the top trending news on 2 media platforms, earning plus 20,000 headline values. For the first time, your coverage of the Xiang Beifei incident has made the headlines on a media platform. Extra rewards: Stealth Talisman X2, Truth-Telling Talisman X2, Memory Talisman X2, Control Talisman X2. Current headline value, 156,988. Exchangeable for 1 chi-raising talisman." Yulei was just a minor reporter, not a big shot, and climbing to the top of the hot search list on major media platforms was no easy feat. Because in this world he wasn't the only one with a system like, I want to make headlines system. Many of his journalist peers who were awakeners even had S-level related systems superior to his. One could say, this incident was a golden opportunity for Yu Lei to turn his fortunes around. Only he picked the wrong person to mess with. Xiang Beifei didn't hold back. After all, Yu Lei came to kill his own grandfather. So taking these items was fair game. The rewards were all accepted as listed. It was a bit regrettable that Yu Lei merely had mid-stage qi controlling abilities, and the system items were also mid-stage spiritual qi crystals, which couldn't help Xiang Beifei light up any star positions. But that qi-raising talisman was what Yu Lei planned to use to advance to the later stages of qi controlling. An item from the later stage of the system worth 150,000 headline values, which he had exchanged for. Go turn yourself in. Tell the law enforcement officers all the bad things you've done. Remember, you must find someone named Lu Hong. Hand over this confession to them and identify how you destroyed the evidence. Also, Xiang Beifei slapped another memory talisman onto Yu Lei's back. You did not see me tonight. You decided to confess of your own accord due to a guilty conscience and restless sleep. That was the only excuse he could find. Okay. Yu Lei's eyes became vacant, as his memory was altered according to Xiang Beifei's manipulation. Wait. Xiang Beifei thought for a moment, then spoke again. Yu Lei looked at him, puzzled. Bang! Xiang Beifei threw another punch. He hadn't fully vented his anger yet. This guy wanted to kill his own grandfather. It was already generous not to have beaten him to death with a single punch. Wipe off the nosebleed. Yu Lei immediately did as he was told. Xiang Beifei hid in the shadows, making Yu Lei reveal himself. He had to watch Yu Lei go to the law enforcement brigade personally. As for how the law enforcement brigade would deal with Yu Lei, who came to confess without reason, Xiang Beifei wasn't too worried. Uncle Lu would cover for him. Lu Hong wasn't scheduled for the night shift tonight. He was resting at home. His wife had taken their daughter back to her mother's house, and he finally had a night of freedom. At this moment, he opened his phone's news app and saw an article being pushed out, titled, A 732-point student from the slums forsakes elite university. The heartbreaking truth behind it. Lu Hong clicked in to read it and instantly became alert. Is it Beifei? A couple of days ago, after the college entrance exam results were released, Lu Jiwei told Lu Hong that Xiang Beifei had the top raw score. At the time, his reaction was quite calm. Others might be surprised, but he knew that the kid Xiang Beifei was extraordinary. After all, he was Xiang Tianqing's son, and he exhibited exceptional talent in all aspects. But the more he read the article, the more Lu Hong felt something was off. Nonsense. Is this journalist spreading rumors? Lu Hong had visited Xiang Beifei's home, and Xiang Qingda was in good health, and Lu Jiwei had even mentioned Xiang Beifei's attempt to try for Liangzhou University, which didn't match the report at all. No, this could cause Beifei to clash with Liangzhou University, and that would be bad. Lu Hong immediately became serious. Beifei was about to prepare for the entrance assessment of Liangzhou University, and this news was detrimental to him. Lu Hong decided to talk to Yu Lei, the journalist, tomorrow, telling him that spreading rumors was illegal and to honestly delete his post. But just then, his phone suddenly rang. It was Ma Feiguang calling. Captain Lu, a journalist named Yu Lei has come to confess. He insists on speaking honestly only to you, Ma Feiguang said urgently. Yu Lei. Lu Hong was extremely surprised. Wasn't that the guy? How could this be such a coincidence? He had just planned to seek out Yu Lei tomorrow, but Yu Lei had come forward to confess? Suddenly, the image of the honest and simple Beifei emerged in his mind. His sharp detective's intuition told him that anything related to Beifei was never simple. At least so far, Lu Hong hadn't treated Beifei as an ordinary high school student. The boy always managed to do things that impressed him. Lai Wuying was exposed by Beifei, Qini lost face in front of Beifei, and now Yu Lei wrote an article attacking Beifei and then went to confess? Could this guy have been dealt with by Beifei? Lu Hong's gaze turned somewhat strange. Lu Hong was, relatively speaking, one of the few people who knew Xiang Beifei well. Although in his eyes, Xiang Beifei was also a mysterious youth, he didn't know what system Xiang Beifei had awakened. But he was aware that the boy's abilities were extraordinary. No matter what Xiang Beifei did, he would not be too surprised. Lu Hong immediately rushed to the law enforcement brigade, sat in the interrogation room with a furrowed brow, surveyed Yu Lei, and then sent the other law enforcement officers away. He was almost certain that Beifei was behind this. The reason was nothing else but the burn scars on Yu Lei's body, which were caused by rapid flame, and Lu Hong, being a possessor of rapid flame, knew this all too well. Beifei acted too rashly. A popular journalist comes forth to confess right after publishing such an article, admitting that what he wrote about the top scholar was false. Isn't he afraid that others would suspect his connection with the scholar? Lu Hong pondered. Yu Lei was admitting all his actions in great detail and even handed over the confession he wrote to Lu Hong. He even prepared a confession in writing. Lu Hong suddenly paused, thought of something, and chuckled bitterly. Does this kid think I would come up with a reason for Yu Lei's confession? Lu Hong helplessly laughed. He had just been thinking about how to help Beifei cover up the past. Beifei had some special abilities, and before he matured, but could help cover up, he would do as much as possible, keeping a low profile, which would be better for Beifei's future. At that moment, Lu Hong's phone vibrated, and a message popped up. He glanced at it and saw that it was from Xiang Beifei, with a simple content. Please, thank you, Uncle Lu. You still know how to thank me? Lu Hong rubbed his forehead, feeling quite a headache. But this rascal, can he even guess my thoughts? Lu Hong picked up his phone and replied irritably, remember to give a heads up next time. Okay. Xiang Beifei's reply was simple, as communication between intelligent people didn't need to be complex. Lu Hong put away his phone, and his gaze towards Yu Lei suddenly became sharp. He slammed the table and barked, continue. Confess all the bad things you've done. Yu Lei's article spread widely, and if he targeted an ordinary household, they would have no recourse. Yu Lei would directly control the person involved. Even if relatives called the police, it would be useless because the person had already been controlled and would act according to Yu Lei's wishes, thus turning the fabricated into reality. But he had hit a snag. He would never have imagined that he had messed with someone he shouldn't have, especially someone who knew the captain of the law enforcement in the Liangzhou West Administrative Region. Lu Hong now regarded Xiang Beifei as a treasure, and he would investigate seriously anything that dared to hit porcelain with Xiang Beifei. He spent 2 days investigating all the cases involving Yu Lei's confession, and when he confirmed Yu Lei's crimes, Lu Hong was quite shocked. This was actually a villain of the highest order. Lu Hong, as captain of the Liangzhou West Administrative Region Law Enforcement, quickly spread a clarification online that the top scholar grandfather and grandson were well, not as miserable as the article described. The reason for Yu Lei's confession, as explained by Lu Hong, was that he knew the grandfather and grandson and was aware of their living situation. To investigate the matter, he specifically summoned Yu Lei, and this led to uncovering even more unknown truths. The persuasive power of the captain of the Liangzhou West Administrative Region Law Enforcement was significant, and although many people still had their doubts, Lu Hong directly laid out all the evidence according to Yu Lei's confession, effectively silencing those people. Your adventure continues at MVLE Novelbin. The matter was handled very smoothly. After Yu Lei surrendered, his crimes were publicized, all his social media accounts were cancelled, and all the fabricated articles were deleted. Afterward, Yu Lei's act of fabricating news to chase popularity caused an uproar on the internet, with the name Yu Lei firmly occupying the top of every major media outlet's trending lists. Everyone was cursing this guy for his lack of morals and extreme wickedness, exploiting people's sympathies for profit. The focus shifted from the 9 elite universities directly back to Yu Lei, especially those in the N-level system who had initially supported Yu Lei righteously, only to find out that they had been used as pawns by him, were indescribably angry. Yu Lei probably didn't expect that, in his desperation to fabricate fake news to get others trending, he would end up trending himself. But now, he could only receive his system rewards in prison. Serves him right. Upon seeing the news about Yu Lei's arrest, Yang Hua finally breathed a sigh of relief. Yu Lei had committed numerous crimes and had been ruthless in his news creation, which solidified something for Yang Hua. His lost system rewards must have been stolen by Yu Lei. This cunning guy. Unfortunately, now that he was in prison, it seemed impossible to recover those two rewards. He had no choice but to accept his bad luck. At the end of the day, I have to thank Beifei. It was because of his incident that Captain Liu was able to catch this guy. Yang Hua felt a rare sense of gratitude towards Beifei. If it weren't for Yu Lei reporting on Beifei, which coincidentally led Lu Hong, who knew Beifei, to investigate Yu Lei and finally capture him, he might not have had the chance to obtain justice. I need to be careful next time and not just accept interviews casually. Beifei had already completed his college application, choosing Liangzhou University. With his scores, Liangzhou University would surely be upgraded, then give him a chance for an entrance assessment. The exact date was not yet set, but it was going to be in the coming days, so he was still diligently practicing Rapid Flame. He had gradually noticed the issues with Rapid Flame and had successfully made some improvements. I should be able to give feedback tomorrow. Beifei summarized the characteristics of the Rapid Flame martial art, planning to seek feedback from Lu Hong in the next few days to help Lu Hong complete the mandatory task issued by the investigation system, aiming to obtain an advancement pill for him. It wasn't that Beifei coveted the advancement pill. Having Lu Hong reach the mid-level of Meridian Opening was also beneficial for Beifei. Lu Hong was very generous and genuinely kind to Beifei, much like Principal Li Nanxing. They both were willing to spend system values to aid him. If Beifei needed system rewards to activate a constellation, Lu Hong would certainly not be stingy. Thus, ensuring that Lu Hong reached the mid-level of Meridian Opening, at least, secured that Beifei could obtain enough system rewards from him for activating constellations at that level. Of course, higher-level system rewards cost more system values, and Beifei did not want Lu Hong to overspend. He would certainly try to obtain system items from others first. If all else failed, then he would turn to Lu Hong for emergency help. As for who these others were, Beifei already had a target in mind. Liangzhou wanted list. Obtaining system rewards from these wanted criminals would not only be justifiable but also earn a bounty, killing two birds with one stone. Helping solve cases should also enable Uncle Lu to earn investigation value. It would be fair to him. Beifei pondered and continued to throw a punch into the air. Lu Hong had been organizing Yu Lei's case files. The case had already concluded, and Yu Lei had been imprisoned in the Jiuzhou Alliance prison due to his crimes. As an R-ranked awakener, he was sentenced to life imprisonment, and once incarcerated, he would never get out again. I wonder what Beifei has been up to these past few days? It was somewhat laughable. He had been busy dealing with the issues concerning Xiang Beifei and Yu Lei over the last few days, yet he hadn't seen the main person involved, the first original party, Xiang Beifei, even once. That made him feel both amused and frustrated. Thanks to his extensive experience in case handling, Lu Hong successfully shifted the focus of netizens from Xiang Beifei to other fabricated news about Yu Lei. Consequently, people discussed Yu Lei more, and Xiang Beifei received less attention. Lu Hong nailed Yu Lei with other crimes because the victims involved in Yu Lei's case were far too numerous. In his effort to thoroughly investigate, he spent every day probing, and as a result, his investigation value increased by over 2,000. I didn't expect that last time I exchanged all 2,000 investigation points for system items for Beifei, he'd return them to me so soon. Lu Hong felt quite emotional. Last month, Beifei had his investigation system initiate a compulsory task and also gifted him 2,000 investigation points, which Lu Hong used to help Beifei. But within just a month, Beifei had captured Yu Lei and helped Lu Hong replenish the lost investigation points. That being said, ever since I met this lad, I seem to have never been at a loss. Lu Hong sat in his office, twirling a pen in his hand, lost in thought. With Beifei's help, he had solved the case of Lai Wuing and earned a large amount of investigation points. Then, the day Beifei came to learn Rapid Flame just by taking a glance, he caught Wan Qiu who was robbing a bank and earned another large amount. Next, Beifei had his system initiate a compulsory task and he earned another batch, and now this one. Even though he had also spent a substantial amount of system points to protect him, In the end, Lu Hong's investigation points income had always been positive. It's just. Lu Hong stared at his system interface. Note: Rapid Flame is the host's fundamental reliance, and the host's comprehension of Rapid Flame is no less than Xiang Beifei's. To become even stronger, feedback from Xiang Beifei is essential. If Xiang Beifei is willing to provide feedback, you can receive an advanced pill. An advanced pill, huh? This could advance him from the early stage to the middle stage of meridian opening, which was incredibly important for him. I wonder if he has made any improvements to Rapid Flame? Most importantly, if Beifei had improved Rapid Flame, would he come and tell him? Lu Hong felt uneasy. Every time he was free from work and there were no criminals around, he would think about this question, and every time he pondered it, he felt so tormented he had to count. Everyone has a few quirks. His quirky habit was to count to pass the time when he had nothing else to do. He was no longer counting, will Beifei come today? But, will Beifei provide feedback? Since he was free today, Lu Hong started counting with his pen on a row of file folders on his desk. He will provide feedback, he will not provide feedback, he will provide feedback, he will not provide feedback. By the end, he realized the outcome was, he will not provide feedback. Bad luck. Xiao Ma, bring a new file folder in here. Lu Hong shouted. The number of folders was even. He needed an odd number so that he could end up on Beifei will provide feedback. Boss here. Ma Feiguang quickly brought in a file folder from outside and handed it to Lu Hong. Lu Hong saw that Ma Feiguang had actually brought two. I asked for one, Lu Hong said irately. What's the difference? Grumbled Ma Feiguang. One is enough, two take up space. Without further discussion, Lu Hong threw one of the file folders back to Ma Feiguang and then shoved the new folder into the stack of old ones. Feeling slightly better, he propped his chin on his hand and took up his pen again to count the number of pages in a document. Thinking of always starting from Beifei will provide feedback, but the results always turned out to be frustrating. This time he decided to change it up, starting with, he will not provide feedback. Then, after counting the number of pages in the document, he discovered the result was, he won't give feedback. Oh boy, damn it. Lu Hong was so frustrated. Until now, he had never counted on Beifei giving feedback. Could it be that Beifei really wouldn't give feedback? Lu Hong sighed deeply. At this moment, someone knocked on the office door twice. Uncle Lu, are you free? Lu Hong, bored and counting staples, responded without looking up. No, I'm counting. Counting. The person knocking sounded puzzled. Lu Hong suddenly startled. Wait, was this voice familiar? There weren't many people who called him Uncle Lu. Beifei. Lu Hong nearly leaped from his chair, his face breaking into a surprised smile. This rascal, he finally decided to show up. Lu Hong's mood instantly became excited. Uncle Lu, am I disturbing you? I heard you saying you were counting. What are you counting? Is it an unsolvable case? Do you need my help? Xiang Beifei asked curiously. Lu Hong coughed awkwardly. He certainly couldn't let Xiang Beifei help him with such mundane matters. He quickly tossed his pen aside and said, No, just counting how many cases Yu Lei has been involved in. Oh, I see. Xiang Beifei did not think much of it. Sit. Lu Hong forced himself to calm down. He was, after all, a precinct captain, and though he sometimes engaged in mundane activities to pass the time when free, he couldn't lose his dignity in front of his junior. About Yu Lei, you are too reckless. The fist wounds on him, I knew at first glance were caused by Rapid Flame. Did you confront him? The first time Lu Hong saw Yu Lei, he had noticed the injuries, which he could not overlook. Yes, thank you, Uncle Lu, Xiang Beifei said. Lu Hong was stunned for a moment. Thank me for what? For covering that up for me. Are you so sure I would cover for you? Lu Hong asked. Xiang Beifei smiled politely and did not respond. Lu Hong shook his head helplessly. He indeed had covered it up right away that day. Speaking of which, Yu Lei has a mid-stage chi-controlling ability. How did you take him down? Lu Hong remembered Xiang Beifei had only awakened 2 months ago and was busy with his college entrance exams. Logically, his abilities should only be at the initial stage of chi controlling. Xiang Beifei thought for a moment and said, "As soon as I threw a punch, he went down." Lu Hong. Xiang Beifei added, "Uncle Lu teaches well. Rapid Flame is very powerful. It was easy to hit him." "Don't flatter me." Lu Hong rubbed his forehead but secretly enjoyed the praise. The kid was polite, had a good temperament, spoke pleasantly, and was strong. It seemed he had all the good traits. After a while, Lu Hong asked somewhat nervously, "By the way, I thought you were preparing for Liangzhou University's assessment all this while, so I didn't look for you. What brings you here today?" "For the Liangzhou University assessment," Xiang Beifei said. Lu Hong's eyes showed a look of disappointment. Beifei came looking for him, not for Rapid Flame? Lu Hong sighed internally. Possibly Beifei had not made any progress yet, so he would have to wait a bit longer. "Tell me, how can I help you? I graduated from the Martial Arts College of Liangzhou University myself. If I can help, I definitely will, but if you ask me what the examination is about, I really don't know. I inquired last time but got no news. However, if you want to enter the Martial Arts College, I think it most likely relates to martial arts," Lu Hong still said patiently. "That's exactly why I'm here. I also feel that the examination might be related to martial arts. Uncle Lu, with your extensive experience, could you spar with me? It would help me identify my weaknesses," Xiang Beifei said. "Spar with you?" Lu Hong pondered. He had not expected Xiang Beifei to suggest this. "Yes, with guidance from Uncle Lu, I should be able to improve faster," Xiang Beifei said. Lu Hong had nothing else planned for the day, so he nodded. "All right, let's go to the training room." The two left the office, and outside, Ma Feiguang. Seeing Xiang Beifei, his eyes lit up. "It's the Shadow Detective. Captain Lu, what case is the Shadow Detective planning to crack now?" Xiao Chao also asked excitedly. "Get lost? It's none of your business." Lu Hong waved them off, sending these people away. Xiang Beifei asked in confusion, "Shadow Detective? Wasn't it from that day in the detention room where you identified the abilities of Wan Qiu and LV He and shocked us all?" Lu Hong explained with a smile. "That day, you cracked the case with one glance and then turned around and left, only leaving a shadow behind. That shadow left such a deep impression on everyone, so they ended up giving you the nickname Shadow Detective. One night when Wan Qiu and LV He escaped from jail, Xiang Beifei casually cracked the case, identified the suspects, and without bothering to explain, turned around and left, leaving behind a suave shadow in the corridor. That shadow continued to linger in the minds of these law enforcers, and even though Lu Hong had later explained Xiang Beifei's reasoning process to them, they were still utterly shocked by Xiang Beifei, mainly because the entire reasoning process was too precise, fast, and flawless. "That's really a strange name," Xiang Beifei said. The two arrived at the training room. Xiang Beifei put down his backpack, then clenched his fists, looking at Lu Hong and said, "Uncle Lu, don't hold back. Just point out my deficiencies." Lu Hong stretched his arms and said, "Don't worry. I'll keep my level equal to yours. Just make your move." Xiang Beifei stomped his foot on the ground, abruptly springing forward, charging at Lu Hong. Whoosh! In an instant, Xiang Beifei was in front of Lu Hong. As his fist struck, spiritual power wrapped around his hands, blasting out a flame gale. This punch, carrying a bizarre strength, rocketed towards Lu Hong's face at a tremendous speed. Well done. Lu Hong judged that Xiang Beifei's cultivation might only be in the early stages of chi controlling, so he tried to suppress his spiritual power to a similar level. However, since Lu Hong was a cultivator in the meridian opening stage, although Xiang Beifei's fist wind was fast, it still seemed slow to him. He clenched his fist, and a burst of explosive flames rose from his hand, meeting Xiang Beifei's fist. Boom! Two fist flames violently crossed in the air, giving rise to an explosive sound. Lu Hong's face suddenly changed. A powerful force transmitted from his arm. He actually couldn't catch Xiang Beifei's punch, and in a critical moment, he had to slant his body aside, diverting most of the force from Xiang Beifei's fist. But as a result, He couldn't help but step backward several steps. Your strength. Lu Hong stared at Xiang Beifei in astonishment. He thought Xiang Beifei only had the initial strength of qi controlling, so he suppressed his own spiritual power to the initial stage of qi controlling. It turned out to be a big disadvantage, and had it not been for his vast experience, that punch might have sent him flying. Qi controlling mid-stage. Xiang Beifei clenched his fist. His figure did not slow down as he charged again. His ferocious fist wind hammering towards Lu Hong. Qi controlling mid-stage? Lu Hong was stunned. How could he have reached the mid-stage of qi controlling in just 2 months since awakening? Even for them, the S-level awakeners, stepping into the mid-stage of qi controlling had taken nearly 5 to 6 months, yet Beifei had unknowingly advanced to this level? Lu Hong was genuinely shocked. He had previously speculated that the awakening system of Beifei might not be as simple as an N level. Now, it seemed that his speculation was almost correct. If an S-level could not reach the mid-stage of qi controlling in 2 months, then N-level was even less likely. Considering this, his awakening talent must be higher, possibly even at the level of his father, Xiang Tianxing. Lu Hong finally understood what Beifei meant when he said earlier, "The moment I throw a punch, he goes down." Yu Lei was only a practitioner of the literary Dao, and his cultivation was also merely at the mid-stage of qi controlling. In front of someone with such extraordinary talent as Beifei, he was hardly worth a few punches. "Nice work, kid. I underestimated you." Lu Hong laughed loudly, once again elevating his spiritual power to another level. Just now, a confrontation had put him at a disadvantage. If he underestimated his opponent again, he might not be able to save face later. Boom! The clash between the two was without any flair, simply fist against fist, the spiritual power burning and forming fist flames exploding in the air. At first, Lu Hong was worried he might accidentally hurt Xiang Beifei, but soon he realized he was thinking too much. Xiang Beifei's strength was even higher than he had estimated. Uncle Lu watched this punch. At the same time, when Xiang Beifei's fist met Lu Hong's, the flame on his fist suddenly changed its circulating pattern, sweeping over to Lu Hong's fist, colliding with the intense flame Lu Hong had gathered. The way the flame swept was very bizarre. When meeting Lu Hong's flame, the two flames should have collided fiercely, the stronger fist wind prevailing. But the already burning flame of Xiang Beifei suddenly got suppressed back into spiritual power by him, and this spiritual power mixed into Lu Hong's fist flame. As Lu Hong's fist flame rampaged, it instantly ignited the spiritual power sent by Xiang Beifei. However, this was not Lu Hong's fist flame. The two flames burned simultaneously on Lu Hong's arm. Xiang Beifei's spiritual power essence instantly disrupted Lu Hong's fist flame, causing his flame to lose control, even making the spiritual power on his arm instantly become extremely chaotic. Crackle! Lu Hong's face dramatically changed. The flame he had gathered with his spiritual power couldn't be deployed. Although his fist still emitted flames, this flame no longer belonged to him, but to Xiang Beifei. That is, Xiang Beifei's flame was burning on his arm. Your next chapter is on MV Eli Novelbin. Most bizarrely, Xiang Beifei's flame quietly broke through the spiritual power protecting Lu Hong's arm. Lu Hong had a foreboding feeling. If this continued, his arm would be burned by Xiang Beifei. Lu Hong made a split-second decision, immediately retracting his hand while also cutting off his output of spiritual power. However, Xiang Beifei's other fist had already come smashing from the other side, hitting his arm and removing the force from his limb. For a brief moment, he found he couldn't muster any strength. In a situation where both parties were evenly matched, being a split-second slower meant suffering a significant disadvantage. Thud! 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 Lu Hong truly felt the brunt of Xiang Beifei's punch as his body stumbled backward 5 steps. You! Lu Hong looked at Xiang Beifei in shock. He wasn't shocked because Xiang Beifei had pushed him back, but because of rapid flame. This rapid flame seemed entirely different from the attacking style he understood. It wasn't even accurate to call it rapid flame. This cultivation technique stemming from Lu Hong's system, he understood the power of rapid flame better than anyone else. However, in his mind, rapid flame was never executed this way. It was beyond his comprehension. How on earth did Beifei do it? Lu Hong looked at Xiang Beifei with astonishment. But without pausing, Xiang Beifei continued, "Uncle Lu, watch my next punch." Whoosh! Xiang Beifei didn't give Lu Hong a chance to rest. Once again, he closed in for an attack, but this time his fist wasn't enveloped in flames. It appeared to be an ordinary punch. Subconsciously, Lu Hong threw his fist forward to meet the blow head-on. His fist wrapped in flame. When it collided with what seemed to be Xiang Beifei's unremarkable punch, spiritual power on Beifei's fist took a different direction once more. The spiritual power changed its course, turning into a clever force that spiraled around Lu Hong's arm like a vortex, instantly suppressing the flames that Lu Hong had just conjured. Immediately after, boom! Another fist flame, not his own, flared up on Lu Hong's arm. The scorching fire ignited his shirt. Lu Hong hadn't expected this turn of events, and hastily used his spiritual power to disperse the flames. But as soon as he diverted his attention, Xiang Beifei charged at him again, aiming a punch at his face. The punch was too fast. If it hit, his nose would undoubtedly be broken. However, as Xiang Beifei's fist neared Lu Hong's face, it deviated to the side, missing his face. By now, Lu Hong had reacted, transforming his fist into a palm, and with a burst of rapid flame, he struck at Xiang Beifei. Xiang Beifei deftly sidestepped, and with his left hand now open, he slapped out another palm wind. As their hands met with a thunderous impact, spiritual power on Beifei's palm shifted eerily once again, wrapping around Lu Hong's palm. Lu Hong felt as if the strange force from Beifei's hand was like maggots on bones, completely suppressing his style of rapid flame punching. He was utterly unable to exert force, as Beifei countered with another palm strike to his chest. Thud! 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 Lu Hong was forced back several steps again. "I actually lost?" Lu Hong looked at Xiang Beifei incredulously. The first retreat could have been explained away by his only using the initial strength of Qi controlling, but this second pushback signified a genuine defeat. The skillful force Xiang Beifei used had drastically boosted the power of rapid flame. With Lu Hong's realm only at the mid-stage of Qi controlling, he couldn't suppress Xiang Beifei's offensive. Within 7 moves, he was defeated. This gave Lu Hong a truly shocking surprise. One must know, even if he had suppressed his own realm, his combat experience and perception abilities were still at the meridian opening phase, and he even had complete confidence that he could use his experience to firmly suppress an ordinary Qi-controlling late-stage master with his mid-stage strength. But this experience was completely useless against Xiang Beifei. Xiang Beifei was merely at the Qi-controlling mid-stage level of strength, and using his mid-stage strength, he couldn't suppress Beifei at all. Instead, he lost miserably. "I lose completely convinced, both inwardly and outwardly," Lu Hong said with a bitter smile. He was someone who could accept a loss. Even though he knew that relying solely on his mid-stage spiritual power would result in a loss to Xiang Beifei, he still did not forcibly enhance his realm and did not break the rules out of concern that losing to a young kid would be embarrassing for a district team leader. For him, rules were rules. If it was said to use mid-stage Qi controlling, then mid-stage Qi controlling it was. Actually, I knew that it would be very difficult for me to deal with a strong opponent like Uncle Lu using normal methods, so I used rapid flame and played a little smart while deploying spiritual power, Xiang Beifei said. Lu Hong suddenly fell into deep thought. Losing to Xiang Beifei wasn't the point was he always felt something wasn't quite right. When Xiang Beifei threw a punch, the way spiritual power was deployed appeared completely different in his eyes. It was still rapid flame, but for some reason Lu Hong's rapid flame was completely countered by Xiang Beifei's. Lu Hong felt his rapid flame was lagging 18 streets behind Xiang Beifei's. Wait, this isn't playing smart. This is... As Lu Hong pondered Xiang Beifei's so-called playing smart, the way the spiritual power was deployed gave him a great revelation. He realized something, turned to his system interface, and then revealed a surprised expression. Detection. Xiang Beifei has improved rapid flame. The opponent's method of deploying rapid flame has been entered into the database. Current feedback progress is 5%. This is Lu Hong became excited. Feedback. The system actively judged that Beifei was in the process of giving feedback. Lu Hong found himself holding his breath. He carefully recalled Xiang Beifei's punching technique, pondered it deeply, and the more he thought about it, the more excited he became. He felt like a huge rock that had been pressing on his chest for a month had finally been lifted, and he felt as if he was basking in the long-absent sunshine, making him feel refreshed. "Uncle Lu, is there anything about the way I deploy Rapid Flame that needs improvement?" Xiang Beifei asked. "It's not that you need to improve. It's that I need to improve. It's me that needs to improve." "Haha. Beifei, how did you come to think of deploying Rapid Flame like this?" Lu Hong asked excitedly. Xiang Beifei thought for a moment and said, "When I practiced Rapid Flame, I always felt that the method of deploying spiritual power was somewhat superfluous. I felt it too overbearing. Being overbearing is good, the stronger it is the better, but it consumes a lot of spiritual power, making it disadvantageous in a prolonged battle. So I considered changing the way these powers circulate, and I found it seemed to be able to overcome the original Rapid Flame. Sorry, maybe this isn't quite right. No need to apologize. You did exactly the right thing. No cultivation technique is perfect. Every technique has its flaws, and I never expected that you'd find the flaw of Rapid Flame. In this respect, you are simply a genius," Lu Hong exclaimed excitedly. Xiang Beifei smiled, looking at Lu Hong's system interface. Uncle Lu had never taken the initiative to ask him about giving feedback to Rapid Flame, and if Beifei brought up feedback on his own, Lu Hong might suspect how he knew about the enforced task of his system. Although Uncle Lu was trustworthy, some secrets, Xiang Beifei felt, were best kept to oneself. Therefore, he chose another way, and by sparring with Uncle Lu, he believed that with Uncle Lu's judgment, he would certainly notice the uniqueness of it. As of now, the system had judged his actions as feedback, and that was enough.